way to say this, Chris. This is going to be it's going to be a long episode. So, might as well just get off into it. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the end of time. I'm Michael.
And I'm Chris.
Unless there's something that maybe happened this last week, like news related or anything like that you wanted to get out. I
was skimming through news. Nothing really. Nothing interesting.
Yeah, just more depression that I hope I'm just completely wrong about, that there's really nothing else to play. It's like the rest of my year is kind of done. I can't even play the one game I want to play right now. Well, with that being said, given the content of today's episode, folks, we're just going to just jumping right into it. I guess I'll kick us off.
All right.
So, my week. I don't think I watched any movies this week. I think I was in between some. I don't think. Let me double check. No, not really. Kind of in the middle of trying to finish watching Sicario: Day of the Soldado, but I haven't finished it yet. Which Sicario is a very good movie for anybody at all. Check out. No TV shows, nothing like that. Pretty game-centric week. Plus, I mean, these past 12 days have been just busy regardless. So, it is what it is. Not even going to be an extensive week for me anyway. Not just because of the amount of content we got to go through tonight, but just in general. Haven't been playing a whole lot of differing games, I guess you'd say. There is a Metroidvania that I've been working on off and on. Environment Alpha, I think is what it's called. I actually don't have my Steam up right now. But it's pretty interesting. It's very 8-bit style, almost like a 4-bit style graphic scheme. It's a Metroidvania. I feel like I'm doing a disservice to all these Metroidvanias when I say that, but yeah, you have to treat me saying I'm playing a Metroidvania as though I'm me talking about I'm eating candy. Like, I fucking love candy, and I love candy, and I eat it all the time. So, as a treat, I just eat all kinds of candy all the time. It's not, for me, it's not anything bad saying it's just another Metroidvania. I fucking love those styles. I love those games. I love the idea of, all right, explore. We're not going to give you a whole lot. We're going to give you some ideas of, you need to go find this thing or go do something to this person or whatever. And you go and you find walls and you find doors and you go backtracking, you find weapons or items or upgrades or whatnot, and you can progress. I love that. I don't know what it is about that. Maybe it's the exploration. Maybe it's the, oh man, I got a new power up. It could be a combination of all those things. But I love those games. Those are, I purposely hunt those out both on the console world and in Steam. So, I know it's just a very loose sentence. Yeah, I'm playing another Metroidvania, and it's hard for me to just, unless it has some brand new mechanic, it's hard for me to just spend 20 minutes gushing about a Metroidvania. But that's good for me. I'm enjoying it.
That kind of leads to the question, well, what is different about this one? Why this one?
What keeps me going is just the fact that it is a Metroidvania, period. It's got that, exploration type gameplay. It's the map itself is kind of gridded out like Metroid, like Super Metroid. It has double jumps. It has a grappling hook. It has like a teleport / quick dash. It has a couple extra non-standard Metroidvania power-ups, but typically at the end of the day, that's what it is. I mean, you're upgrading your weapon, you're upgrading your mobility, and you're finding keys and ways to unlock. You would think after, the 40th one of these I played, I'd be done with this by now, but I'm not. I like them. Point of fact, man, my top 15 list has been on my mind this year, Chris. I think I'm gonna finally dump this over on you and Adam, and get you two to sit down and get your own little top 15, top 20, whatever list going. Because I am now getting to the point where I have not one but 2 games that are in my mind to, Michael, you might want to think about putting these 2 on that list. Like, you really might want to think about taking something off and putting them on. And Hollow Knight is actually one of them. Hollow Knight is that good of a Metroidvania. Now, Castlevania Symphony of the Night is already on my wall. So if it's going to go up against anything, it's going to be that. And that's a discussion. That's a debate. There's a lot. It didn't take too much work for Castlevania to get on that list, period. But for a game to come up and go, yeah, I'll challenge that. That should say something to the audience. But yeah, I like this formula, man. I like it as much as I like a good RPG. It's in my wheelhouse. It's something I like.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, when I'd say like partially free time when I'm doing something where I can't solely focus on text based whatever, I'm usually playing that. Sekiro update. Guess what, folks? I'm still not playing it, and that's really all it is to it. If we're being completely honest, I have not looked one time this entire week for a solution. I really haven't. I hate it too. I really do, because now people are really starting to get into spoiler territory. You know, it's just people have beat this game multiple times over by now. This game is starting to get completely just waylaid, and you know, there's boss strategies being thrown around, and there's artwork and gifs and webms of fights and all this stuff, and I'm still doing a fairly good job of dodging everything that I can and trying to keep all this stuff as fresh as possible. I feel like I've done a pretty good job. But the more that I'm hearing people say this game is like Game of the Year quality, which, I mean, that's subjective. I get that. That's also a big, like, buzz thing to say. But I know, all right, folks, I know From Software. I know what their games have to offer. And as far as these types of games, they have not swung and missed yet at all. I mean, even if I was to personally rank these games, it's not like okay, I would personally put Dark Souls 2 closer to the bottom. I played all of Dark Souls 2, okay? I enjoyed all of Dark Souls 2. None of these games are bad. And I'm not hearing anything like that with Sekiro. All I'm hearing is, dude, this game's fucking great. So it does suck that I'm not playing it. I'm itching to play it, but I'm fucking folding my arms, Chris. I'm standing my ground on this. There is no fucking reason why I should have to play this game any other way than I play any other game. It should not be this difficult. I don't have some super fucking one-off computer, okay? I could put my specs up anywhere and you can see it's a pretty standard motherboard, a pretty standard processor, pretty standard video card. I'm using Windows 10. I'm using a wireless Xbox One controller. And for every fucking person that puts their glasses on their nose and goes, well, that's your problem. It's your motherboard or it's your controller. I say, no, it's not. Because here is the laundry list of other Steam games that I play and have zero problems with. It should not be this fucking difficult. I don't have some you're like 1 in a million situation. I don't know what my situation is, but for some reason, it will not work the way I want it to. I don't want to have to reconfigure my color shit every time, and I don't want to play with any amount of lag, whether it's 0.1 seconds or 2 seconds. I don't want any input lag.
Right.
So I really don't know what I'm going to do, Chris. I really don't. I know I talked a big game about probably just going out and buying a console version, but for myriad reasons, I've already got the PC version. I just want to stick with that, and I don't know. Maybe sometime next week I'll get a bug on my ass and go look online and go try to find some more help. Maybe by now, damn near a month after release, somebody will have a legitimate fix, but I was turning up way too many dead ends a couple weeks ago, so meh. Sorry, folks. I really do wish I had more to say for Sekiro, but I don't. Maybe in the future I will. We'll see. So the game that I have been playing the most of, I am still into Danganronpa. When we recorded last episode, I had only played like an hour or two of it, and I hadn't really got to the meat and potatoes of this game. Now I have, and I can tell you, for starters, again, if you're a Persona fan, I would say that while this game is not a Persona game, there are way too many like direct fucking elbows to Persona that you're gonna enjoy this from that perspective. You deal with a bunch of PCs, a bunch of player characters. You can interact with them. You have like free time in this school, so you can actually go out and interact with them. A little bit scaled down on the interactions. You know, it's not 20 paragraphs of dialogue. It's more like, hey, I'm going to hang out with you, and you can give them a gift, and then they'll give you some dialogue if you gave them a gift or if they like you. What else? The way the menu is laid out, the way that the text falls on screen, how they have different portrait animations for every character, and if they say a sentence that's 15, 20 words long, they'll only like say the first part like, hey, I know that, where what they were saying was, yeah, now that you mentioned it, I was thinking about that question you asked me the other day, and I think I'm aware of, that's just a lot of Persona vibes from this game. Wow, but it's not directly a Persona style game.
Right.
So, what this game is, and what I finally got into the heart of, spoiler free, if just in case I slip up here, for the audience, I would recommend it. Well, how do I know if I'm gonna like this game? If you like mysteries, and you like talking to people and gathering clues and figuring out situations, and you're good with, you're in for like a text-based style, lots of dialogue game, and especially if you like anything like Persona, this is going to be up your alley. So I do recommend it. So from here on out, just in case, Danganronpa 1, spoilers, here we go. So the premise of this game, as spoiler free as I can keep it. This kid gets picked to go to this high school, and forgive me if I'm raping this. This is bad. I'm just trying to paraphrase it and get through it. This high school was set up to be like, I think it's called Hope's Peak, and it was set to have like the world's greatest students come in, and all the students that are there that you interact with have a gimmick. You have like the ultimate baseball player, the ultimate fashionista, the ultimate pop idol, the ultimate class protege, so on, the ultimate baseball player, so on and so forth. Your character is the only odd character. He was drawn from a lottery. And he just happens to be like, look, I'm very middle ground. I'm average at everything. I make average grades. If I prepare food, it tastes average. I'm average at playing sports. I'm just middle road. I kind of relate to this guy a lot. But yeah, that's it. That's his stick. So he goes to school, immediately gets what he feels like is transported to this other place. He wakes up and the school is completely locked down. All the windows are like riveted shut with giant steel bolts and plates. There's no way out. And he finds, I think there's like 12 or 13 other students in this school, and they're all locked together. This antagonist, his name is Monokuma. He is, yes, when you look at the box art, he is the teddy bear that is half black and half white. The white side has like a sunny disposition, and the black side has like a, angry face, like killer look to it. That's what his character is. What he is, why he's doing these things, where he comes from, don't really know yet, because I'm still early in the game, and there's only like one or two vague things that were thrown out about him. He mentions that he's remotely controlled. He does mention that. But he also makes a joke. I think it's a joke anyway, that's like, yeah, they're controlling me from the moon, so I don't know. It could be a Dark Knight Joker thing where he's just throwing out shit and it's all bullshit, and you'll never know. I don't know. But anyway, so these kids all wake up. They're talking. They're moving around the school on the floor. A lot of places are like blocked off, but they feel they can gain access if they can find keys and whatnot. They're all trying to figure this school out. They're all trying to figure each other out. And then Monokuma shows up and says, "Hey, everybody gather in a gym. I'm going to explain everything." He gathers everybody and said, "Here's the premise. You got two choices." He says, I am bored and I want to be entertained. If you can entertain me, I'll let you go. And here's how you're going to entertain me. One of you is going to kill another one of you. Somebody's going to become a killer. And there's a stipulation to this. If you can kill one of your fellow students and you can do it without getting caught, I will let you go. I will let you be free. I will unlock this place and you can go, and everybody else will stay here and die. But if you kill somebody and you're found out, you're going to die. And the process is going to repeat until there's either one person left or all of you fuck up and I'm going to kill all of you. So that's the premise. And as spoiler free as I can keep it, because this, in kind of a Persona way, this game does kind of work off a internal clock, not a real world clock. Like, you have certain things you can do throughout the day. You can interact with other people. You can walk all around the school in the areas that are not locked off, and you can just look at things, just check things out. There are some video gamey type things, like you can find these little hidden coins, and then you can then use those coins to play this little like gumball style machine, and it gives you a random chance to get an item, and those items you can use to give to the players if you hang out with them. And depending on how much they love that item, they may give you more information. They may become closer to you and reveal certain things. So, and again, trying to keep this spoiler free, but so I'm telling you this, Chris, and I'm telling the audience this. Okay, so the idea is a kid has to kill another kid. Yes. And if they get away with it, then they'll be let go. Yeah, but if they get caught, they get killed. Exactly. Okay, but these are all kids. Yes, they're all like high school kids. Well, they're not going to do that. No, it doesn't make sense. They wouldn't do that. And also, a thing I didn't mention, they're furnished with everything. This is something Monokuma tells him, like, look, there's food here, and I will always supply more food. There are clothes. I will always supply more clothes. You can live here forever if you want to. But I know you all have family. I know you all have friends. Some of you have lovers. Some of you have careers. Like, nobody wants to just be in some place forever. So, yeah, I mean, it would make no sense. They're kids and not going to kill each other. Here's where the dagger starts coming in. Monokuma, after a few days, is like, this is boring. Like, you guys are just fucking walking around high school and you're not doing anything at all. I'm going to do something that's gonna make you guys start fucking going at each other. And they're like, whatever, dude, we're not gonna kill somebody. And then he starts doing shit. And then shit starts happening. And then he does more shit. And more shit starts happening. Back and forth, and he just goes on and on and on. I do not know how many chapters per se are in this game, but I am only at I think I just started the trial version of trial section of chapter 2, and I've got 10, 15, 20 something hours in, so there's a good hefty bit of content. So this is the follow-up to all this. So let's say something happens, somebody gets murdered, you have to spend an almost infinite amount of time going around the high school and finding clues. You have to talk to people and get stories straight. You have to go places and find evidence and go, wait a minute, they said they were here, but here is their key. How did they even get here? Hold on, let me go back to them. Okay, you said this, like you're basically spending time gathering evidence.
Mhm.
And once the game basically flags that you have all the evidence you can possibly get, you hear the bell, ding, 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 and you go to a trial. The way the trial is set up is actually pretty interesting. So you have to present all of your evidence, and it's not just your character, it's everybody in the school. Everybody's trying to figure this out. Everybody's trying to figure out who the killer is. And of course, the killer is one of them. And he's, or she or whatever is trying to not be caught. So they're like, yeah, this is crazy. Let's talk about this piece of evidence. So one of the, just an example, one of the characters will start spouting off a sentence like, so yesterday I was walking down the left hall when I saw so-and-so, and they had a butcher knife in their hand, and the word butcher knife will be highlighted. If you have that clue and you know what that person is saying is incorrect, you quite literally shoot those words, because there's a reticle on the screen, and you go, hold on. It's kind of like saying objection in the Phoenix Wright things. It goes, nope, hold on. So you did walk down the hallway. We can confirm that. But the person he was walking with was there as a witness as well, and he doesn't have a knife. He had a baseball bat. And they go, oh, yeah, that's right. I've got my facts mixed up. I'm sorry. So the game already has a story in place. And line by line, they're throwing out the scenario, and you have to be the one to come in and go, no, that's wrong. Or, yeah, that's right. Just let it go. And you keep getting the facts and putting them together and then narrowing it down and so on and so forth. And then eventually you'll find out who the person is. And this is where the game almost lost me for a second until I realized I just need to read properly. The last section, when it comes to like, okay, I know, Chris, I know that you're the killer. You go, no. And I go, yes. And here's why. It puts up this little mini game that's almost like a rhythm-based mini game. Is really odd. It's choice of the way that they do these little games in here. It's fairly fresh, but I kept not getting the way that they wanted the mini game done. I thought I just kept having to press the button to the beat, and that wasn't working, and that doesn't work. You have to press another button and line the proper words up. And once I figured out what I was doing wrong, it went like a champ. And so on the one hand, if you fuck up and don't put enough truth out there, or shoot enough holes in the lies, or present enough evidence to where basically the person gets away, there's a cutscene and you all die. There may just be one, I'm not sure, there may be multiple, or if enough evidence back traces to you and it looks like you're the one who did it, you'll die. But if you play it correctly and you do what you're supposed to and gather the evidence and get the correct stuff together, you'll find who the killer is, and they will be executed, and then life will move on. So as spoiler-free as I can make it, that's the gist of the game. The first case that I went through, I take it with a grain of salt because it was the first. There's so many new mechanics you're trying to learn, and maybe it was just that way, but I felt it was kind of easy. Matter of fact, when I saw the murder scene, I automatically keyed in on one thing and went, oh, well, there you go, right there. There's obvious. But I still had to go through the motions of getting all the evidence and whatnot. It was pretty interesting. The second one, I've got a fairly good grasp of what's going on, but I don't know if I have it correct. Like, I kind of have the idea, but I don't know if it's right. Now, and I'm about to find out because the trial's going to go down in my next playthrough. And if it's somebody that's a killer, they're going to be out. They're going to be outed. They're going to be executed, and then it's going to whittle down. It's going to go from, I think there was like 13, 14 students originally, and it's going to go down and down and down. So I'm assuming that every chapter is a murderer getting ousted. Very interesting. We'll see as the game goes how easy these murder cases get. We'll see how twisty they get. And if I like it, well, I've got another game lined up behind it. And there's a third one that I haven't purchased yet. I hear that's the creme de la creme of the series. So, but as far as like, I've never played the Phoenix Wright games, not because they're bad. I just haven't played them. But this is pretty interesting. This if Phoenix Wright games are anything like this, where you're basically poking holes in stories and bringing out the liars and bringing out the truth, this is actually pretty interesting. And also, again, the little mini games and the different ways that you go about, the trial and everything is interesting. It's pretty interesting.
I've always wondered what the appeal of the Phoenix Wright games are. I haven't seen anything for any of them, but just kind of knowing the basis of the game, it's like, how fun is this actually?
Yeah, I think the idea again is kind of like Danganronpas. It's like you have evidence put out there, like a trial happens, and they put the stuff out there, and you go, wait a minute, you couldn't have driven. Well, why? Because you said in your earlier statement that you never learned to drive. Oh, well, yeah, and you also don't own a vehicle. I get it. I get where it could be appealing. But yeah, as far as something different and just it's got me. And I will also give major props to the music. As people know, I love video game music, and if a good game like Persona can capture me with a lot of good music, I was humming music from this. There was like 4 tracks I was humming from this game day 2 in my personal life after playing it. So definitely some good composition, some very moody tracks that fit this game really well. So yeah, I recommend it definitely for trying. This is definitely the only people I've ever heard in my world, my existence, that have recommended, even talked about these games, have been the Super Best Friends and Austin Eruption. I want to say maybe I've heard Easy Allies mention them now and again, but of those 2 definitely have been like, look, this is something new. It's out there. It's going to be a little odd, but check it out. And it's great. And yeah, I can see where they like it. I can see. So yeah, that's been my week. Chris.
Yeah.
What you been up to?
Oh man. So it's been an interesting week. I'll put it that way in gaming. Before I get into really the meat of what I was playing, I have been playing more Magic, of course. That's, I at least do dailies every day. That's one of my, go-tos. But something I didn't mention last week with the whole, tournament they did, was I was also kind of the first reveal, I think, for cards for the upcoming expansion, War of the Spark. They had this awesome, pretty epic trailer for it as well. It reminds me of something, Blizzard would do. So that should be high praise. So funny enough, I've talked about how MTG Arena is free and stuff, and you can buy gems and whatnot, but it's really not necessary. And I think the only purchase I had made was there was a $15 or $5 starter bundle, one-time purchase you could make, which I did because I was having fun with the game. And then when they released the cosmetics, there was, I want to say, another either $10 or $15 thing. It gave you some gems and some skins. So I did that. But now, after the tournament, or maybe during the whole thing, I don't know when exactly it launched, but there's now a $50 pack you can buy. And it's basically a pre-order for the expansion, which is the 25th of this month. You get 50 packs in it.
Holy crap.
Which is, that's a ton of packs for a new set. So as soon as I saw it, I was like, okay. Yeah, I immediately bought it because I play the game so much. I enjoy it so much. And this game is so good. I fully support them on what they've been doing to make it better. And it's still not even, I don't even think they've fully made it the, version 1.0. I think they're still considering it a beta. So good on them, and I'll support them, as long as they continue doing it like this. So the first big game to talk about for the week, and I feel like I'm missing something because I'll think about it as I'm talking, because I played on Monday. Of course, it's Mario Monday again. I'm continuing with Baby Kaizo World, which is a Super Mario World ROM hack that is, of Kaizo difficulty, which means it's really freaking hard.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm up to 11 exits complete out of the 44. So I did 5 exits this week. It was really good. I was really happy with up until the last level where I left off. And then it just got dumb. But it's an interesting exercise in, figuring out what you're supposed to be doing, and then executing it, because you'll go, okay, well, yeah, I need to just jump from here to there, and that's this part, that's this jump. I just jump here to there. But you go, okay, well, is it a full jump? Is it a partial jump? Is it a spin jump? Is it, do I need speed for it? So all these factors you have to figure out, and there'll be a chain of, like 10 plus of these jumps that you're having to figure out each step of the way. And if your positioning's wrong, or you press the wrong button at the wrong time, just a little bit, just a fraction of a second off, you're not going to make it. So that's kind of where I'm at on the level I left off. There's a series of jumps, which individually they're not bad, but there's one of the jumps near the very end that I cannot figure out how to get consistent. So I can't figure out the part after that because I haven't had enough attempts at it, because I keep getting caught on this one that I can't do consistently, and I can't figure out why. Because it's like I either go too far or I don't go far enough, or I, get halfway. I'm like in between. It's like, well, it's like, okay, if I hit this jump, then hit this jump, then I should hit the next one automatically, just because I'm bouncing from one thing to another. No, I die on, the second, or on the third one. Dying on the second one, that just means, I'm probably too far on the left of the first. These are flying Koopas I'm on. So it probably just means I'm on the, too far left on the first Koopa. So I hit the second one, and then die on the third one. It's like, well, if I got 2 of the jumps, I should get 3, right? Because how am I getting 2 if I'm doing something wrong? That was very frustrating, and I really wanted to beat that level before I ended my stream Monday night, but that's where I'll pick up this Monday. It is what it is. I'm enjoying it. It's a nice challenge. This is one of the easier ones, so I'm having a hard time with it, but the more I play it, the stuff I've already done becomes easier. Once you figured it out and just have to do execution, it's a little bit easier. Figuring it out is a lot of the challenge. So
yeah.
All right. So the big thing for me this week is I'm doing something a little special this week.
Okay.
I decided, for a reason, to do with my stream, that I was like, I want to go back and play Lunar so I can look at some stuff throughout the game. And I was like, you know what? I keep talking. We just had recently the Game of the Year for 1996, which was when the Lunar remake was made. I was like, you know what? I keep talking about the differences and how much I don't like, the PlayStation version, but it's still Lunar, right? So I was like, you know what? I'm going to play both at the same time. So I pulled both games up on my screen, and I'm playing, section by section. I'll do, okay, this part of Sega CD, pause it. All right, go to PlayStation, to the Silver Star Story complete, play that section, and then talk about the differences of what, is going on. And I've been having a lot of fun with it. Except for the fact that I now realize and remember just how bad the remake actually is.
Oh, no.
I loaded up the games, and I just like, all right, here's the intro for each. The intro song wasn't there on the remake, which I completely forgot. I thought they brought it over. And the intro song on Sega CD is one of my favorite tracks ever. So I was like, all right, not off to a good start. And then as soon as, you know, you hear Alex, the main character, you hear his voice, it's like he doesn't have a voice in Sega CD, you know? Well, for most of it. There are a couple parts where, you know, he has a couple lines, but he doesn't constantly talk. Either vocally, you know, as in someone recorded his voice, or in text boxes. I actually found a text box in the Sega CD version I didn't even know was there with his dialogue. So he has, you know, more lines than I even thought, but still, that's how little it is that this, like, one line I didn't know existed. Or I'd forgotten a long time ago. But yeah, it's really sad how little justice they did the game in the remake. They completely changed around plot points in a lot of cases. They gave characters a lot of unnecessary dialogue just to try to emphasize, you know, like, yeah, Nash is a jerk, but boy, did they go overboard with it in the PlayStation version. You know, it's not as subtle. It's, you know, instead of one line going, yeah, you guys are beneath me, he's like, yeah, I'm better, this is why, you suck, blah, blah, blah. It's like, okay, I get it. He's a bit of a jerk. Yes, we know. Stop doing that every time he speaks. We don't have to hate every word out of his mouth, you know? Yeah. So it's, man. But it's been fun to play through Lunar again and do this. It's just a little neat little experiment, you know, to try play through an original and a remake and just compare all these differences. On that note, before we get into today's topic, I would like to present a motion to the podcast.
This is interesting.
Going back to the Game of the Year 1996 results, we had Lunar, Silver Star Story Complete, as fourth on the rankings. I would propose that it goes to the bottom.
Oh, wow. That bad, huh?
Oh, yeah. Everything about this game, playing through it, I'm having a miserable time with the remake in a lot of places. The combat isn't fun. I remember the combat system being different, but not that they completely took out the original spells and replaced them with things that didn't make sense. I'm yeah.
That's you know what? I'm totally fine with that. I can't see a reason why. Yeah. I don't really have the list handy, Chris. Let me see if do we still have?
Yeah, I have it unhidden right now.
Okay, we'll take a list. So if we did that, it would be taking out, okay, worse than Pokemon Red and Blue?
Yeah, all the way at the bottom.
Yeah.
If I had those sitting next to me, I would play Pokemon over this game now.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. And I'm sure the audience can weigh in. Please email, message, contact us however you want to, especially if you're vehemently against this. Try to tell Chris why this is not so, but when somebody is passionate about a franchise and a series, like Chris is with Lunar, kind of say that his judgment is pretty solid.
Yep, and I'm still going to continue streaming it until I beat the game, and I might do it with Lunar 2, even though Lunar 2 isn't as high up there on my, enjoyment levels. I think I'm probably going to do this with Lunar 2. So yeah, I'm always open to debate on my Twitch channel as well. That is it for my week.
Wow, we blew through that way quicker than I thought. But it may be it's probably good that we did, though. I'm trying to pull my spreadsheet back up and look. I think when I counted just my games alone, I think there were 47 games I put on there. So, let's see, 7. There's 40-something games on there.
There are 42 right now, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that's a lot of games to go through. So, even if this year doesn't turn out to be some stellar banner year, that's a lot of games. Anyway, I'm getting ahead of myself. So, all right, folks, today's topic, as you can obviously tell from the title, we are doing another game of the year. I'm sorry, we're doing another End of Time Cast year in review. So, this is a series that we've been doing for some time now. And it's essentially us going back to that year in time and reviewing what came out that year. Both in what we used to do was solely video game releases. We've been trying to add some more game news. What happened? Like, did new magazines come out? Did consoles get discontinued? Was there some big to do like the ESRB or some lawsuit? What consoles may have got released? We try to add the news like that as well. But the main topic of it, the main idea of the topic is to go over games that are notable that year. And the notable is subjective to us. So mainly it's games that either one, and primarily games that we have played and wish to talk about, whether they're bad or good. But also games that are like, maybe we didn't play, even though they were super popular. For example, when 2018 rolls around, we'll talk about Fortnite because Fortnite was fucking huge. I'm sorry, PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds, but I didn't play it, so I can't really talk about it. But it's undeniable how popular PUBG was. So that's the idea for these topics. And like I said, we've been doing it since, the 80s. And eventually these will catch up to the current year that we're at. And it'll be almost like an end of the year, maybe the beginning of the next year thing, where it'll be less, it might be a combined thing. Or it might be 2 episodes, maybe more, depending on how much we have to debate. But yeah, it'll be a year in review and then a game of the year. That's also the spinoff of this episode that you will hear 3, 4, 5 episodes down the road. Is we will take these games, we will cherry pick our picks, and we will debate them as in a time cast, as in me and Chris, or me and Chris and Adam. What we decide is our podcast's vote for the game of the year. But that's later. Right now, we're just going to go over the year 1997 and talk about it. Yeah, lots of games, man. When I saw that there were 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 Bs, I was like, yeah, this is oh boy, this might be a list. And yeah, it was. And that's good. There's not that's great when you can come away from a year going, I played this and this and this, and you just keep on going. That's a good thing. Especially if they were all good. So some of the news items that I put out at the top, not too many, just a few. There was a newer version / a smaller version of the SNES release in the US this year. This is the one that people may remember. It's a gray box again, but a little bit more sleek in design. And it's got the buttons basically on the left-hand side of the console. I mean, it's a smaller version of the Super Nintendo. It does the same thing. I didn't go super in specific of the differences, and I don't plan to. But yeah, the upgraded / later version of the Super Nintendo was released this year. This year as well, Sony gave their PlayStation development software out to be worked with on PCs. So this was when the Sony PlayStation development was really getting underway. The THQ was founded this year. I didn't realize that this company was this old. For those that don't know, Darksiders, I think they're on their third one by now. Red Faction and Saints Row. That's the company that did this. For some reason, I had it in my head that this company was like in mid 2000s. Nope, 1997. And unfortunately, the rips of this year, the rip in pieces, is Game Gear and Master System. Those two consoles were laid to rest / discontinued this year. Yeah. So, all right, let's get into it, man. So, these are our notable games of 1997. First off, and yeah, as the audience, you'll hear these are pretty much in ABC order because we literally just go through the Wikipedia page and just pick them out, and I don't know. I don't really see a point in us shuffling them. I guess we could, but meh.
No,
it is what it is. Alundra, first on the list.
Mm-hmm.
I played this game. By the way, Chris, refresh my memory. Red. So I'm sorry, audience can't see this, but we got a spreadsheet up. Red is what I've played. Blue is what you've played, and green is together.
No, red's both.
Oh. Okay.
Green's me, and blue is you.
Okay. Well, I'm against this. Green is my favorite color, so
I know.
Throw this out, and we'll start over.
I actually thought about that earlier when I was recoloring this list. I was like, wait a minute, I've been doing this all wrong.
And I mean, if you think about it, even that's wrong. Whatever. Colors don't fucking matter. I'm happy that this is the way it is because and I should know this, Chris, by looking down the rest of the list, but I like the fact of knowing that you have played Alundra as well. I want to say that I think you and I played Alundra almost the same time in our younger age, or am I completely wrong?
So, I don't know when I actually had hands on it. I realized actually a few years ago that I was mistaking this game and Azura's Dreams.
Yeah.
So, I actually downloaded Alundra to play, and I was like, wait a minute. This isn't the game I'm looking for.
Yeah, so Alundra is a very good, not really side-scrolling, more like top-down action adventure game. This is essentially the PlayStation's answer to a Zelda game. I think that's a fairly accurate way to put it.
That's a really good comparison, actually.
So, I mean, you're a character, you're on this island, and you have to explore, you find dungeons, you fight baddies, there's a lot of puzzle solving, there's boss conquering, there's item acquisition, there's upgrades, and yeah, I mean, it's a Sony's 32-bit graphics version of their answer basically to Zelda. And the first time that I played this, Chris, back in the day, I don't think I ever beat it. I think I got several dungeons in, and I don't know if I can't remember if it was I borrowed it and had to give it back or what, but I never beat it. And I picked this up and started playing it again, man, like 3, 4, 5 years ago. I was still in my old house, and I went all the way through it and finally beat it. And yeah, it's a pretty good answer to a Zelda title. Sound effects are a little off here and there. Music is kind of ho-hum. Graphics are pretty nice for what they are. The controls are fairly tight, but yeah, it was okay. Pretty good.
Yeah, the whole premise of it is kind of interesting too, with the whole dream thing.
Yes.
But yeah, I mean, it's a solid game, and I don't know how much of this game I've actually played, but I have watched the speedrun of it, and that's a very interesting, from a technical perspective, a speedrun as well. So I'd recommend that too for speedrun fans.
Yep. Next on the list is a Chris-only game, which I'm kind of ashamed to say that I haven't played it yet. Armored Core. Now, I will admit I haven't played any of the Armored Cores. I think I acquired a bunch of them so I could try some of them out, but most of them were PlayStation 2 titles. So, and I think the later generations like far evolved from what Armored Core started out as, which is fine. But it's as some of the other games in this list are going to be for me, man. It's just a victim of circumstance. I was never around anybody that had an Armored Core game, and by the time that I was in a situation where I was able to play Armored Core games on my own, I was like, well, fuck, I don't know where to start. Should have started at the start, but in any event, I definitely see Armored Core games from a distance and go, there's mechs involved. I'm down. So tell us about it.
Yeah, and I did play this, but I also primarily put this on the list because of the series as a whole. You know, this was the first, and this was a good start, especially, you know, considering it's the PlayStation era. So it may or may not have aged very well, probably not, but it's still, you know, in 1997, this was a pretty solid game. It was developed by From Software, so there's always that. It's a third-person mech shooter game. So you run around in your mechs and, you know, destroy other mechs, and you have a little story mission type thing. Fun. I don't know how far I ever got into it. I can't recall the difficulty of it, but I mean, running around in mechs is almost always fun. So.
Oh yeah, it's that genre alone, and please, audience, actually the fuck out of me on this one. I love to be wrong, but the jump in a mech / customize a mech and jump in and engage in multiple combat with multiple other mechs that are wild varieties. That is a genre that seems to be sorely lacking in 2019. I know there are some, and I know there are some that are being developed right now. I think there's a couple Steam games that Adam's recommended to me. Yeah, I get that there are a couple out there, but if I was to tell Chris to go find me a first-person shooter, he would come back to me with 700 games. I mean, that's a lot. You tell me a mech game like the one I described earlier, few and far between.
You just triggered a memory for me. You mentioned a first-person shooter. I didn't even put on my list, but the other game I'd been playing over the weekend, which is why my timeline was off, was Satisfactory.
Okay, yeah, so, you could zap some in if you need to. Go ahead.
I put in a lot of hours. I think Saturday I streamed it for like 11 hours straight.
And that's so good, man.
Because I was like, all right.
Love that you're enjoying this game.
Yeah, I was like, all right, I have a goal. I want to get there. And I had completely scrapped what I did the day before. Like on that Thursday, I had, you know, rebuilt my little factory. And then Saturday I completely scrapped that because I didn't like it anymore after I had 2 days to think about it. So I spent that time rebuilding and then moving on. And across those 2 days, finally got to the point where I'm like, all right, I think I'm done with the game until they release, you know, the final version. Because I'm getting to a point where things are mostly done, but there's still some things you can't really go farther. So I'm like, okay, this is a good stopping point before full release.
Yeah, I'm still happy, man. I'm glad that game is soaking up time like that. It lets me know that like you tried it and you're like, oh, I'm in. I'm all in.
Yep. And
maybe it's just my pessimism over the rest of this year, but that's one of the main reasons why I'm glad. I just don't know what else this year is going to make me go, Nani?
And that's kind of why I went back to Lunar, because I was like, man, what do I really want to play right now? And I'm like, I don't really, really, really want to play anything at the moment. There's nothing jumping out going, you know, play me. I'm like, all right, I got a week until Anno comes out. So let's play Lunar.
I think and the audience will agree with me on this, and this is a perfect time for the backlog. This is the perfect time to go back and start getting some of those games filled out. Maybe I'll start doing that after we'll see what Danganronpa plays out, and we'll see if there's anything else I want to play at. But yeah, this is good time. I mean, again, unless I can find some game out there that's going to be coming out that really is just makes me stop everything else, then yeah, several months in this year to go back and get some games worked on. Started, hell, for the first time, much less go back and finish what I never started. Excuse me. So back on track. Yeah, Armored Core, I salute you from a distance. I will, hey, maybe I'll get into play one this year. We'll see. But another game that I don't know, I don't believe that I have played As Your Dreams. I took a brief pause on it, looked up a trailer, I looked up some footage, and I don't feel like I know this game, but I feel like I have played it before. I just don't know how, or I mean, when.
Yeah,
or
this
how
was
long.
an indie game, so that may be where you got a brief look at it.
Yeah. So this is another all you.
Yeah, so this game is one I have wanted to go back and finish, and I actually restarted it, I want to say last year, maybe, or the year before. Obviously didn't finish it yet, but I need to get back to that. See if I can find my saves on my computer. But so As Your Dreams it's a RPG mixed with some I don't even know what to compare it. Some Pokemon-like features mixed with it's a roguelike. So you have your character, and there is a tower at this little city you're at. You have your city and your buildings and all. Then up above that, you have the tower, and the premise is every time you enter the tower, it's different. And what you're doing is you enter the tower, you get a familiar at the beginning of the game, and the goal is to, reach the top of the tower to find out, the story resolution. But along the way, you are fighting and taming monsters. So, and you use the monsters to fight along with you and stuff. So while you're doing this, you're also making money, and you can upgrade, buildings around the town, a theater, hospital, gym, etc. There are love interests. I don't know how much progress I made with that, but it's a thing. There are mini games. So there's all these mechanics to this game, which is one of the reasons why I never finished it, because I don't know how long it would take to finish. There's a lot to it, though. And just the whole entering the tower, fighting as high as you can get, before dying, or before exiting, because you don't want to die, because then you lose all your equipment you have on you. So it's very punishing if you push yourself too hard. So you're like, all right, how far do I think I can get? All right, let's get here. And you're like, well, I could exit, or I could keep going. And I think it's one of those things where you only have exits on so many floors. I don't think you can exit every floor. Maybe. It's been a while, so don't quote me on that. But yeah, this is a super fun game, and one to this day I still want to go back and finish.
All right, so next up we got Blast Corps. This is a Nintendo 64 game, and definitely this is something that somebody could pose to me today if I had never played Blast Corps, and somebody just walked up and said, "Hey, I've got this game idea. I got this game. It's got this kind of out there premise. I think you'd be interested." The idea is, from the story perspective, there is a we're talking very now I'm trying to think of the director of The Rock. I'm sorry, Michael Bay. This is a very Michael Bay premise, okay? Don't take it to heart, but there's a nuclear weapons carrying vehicle, a nuclear movement vehicle, tank, whatever, a tanker. It's a truck with a damn trailer with nukes on the back. And I can't remember if it gets hijacked or if it malfunctions or whatever, but the truck is moving forward constantly at like 5 miles an hour. It cannot turn left or right. Nobody can get in to turn it. And when they got in and turned it, it didn't turn. It's just going in a straight line. And they can't stop it. If this truck has so much vibration, or more specifically, if this truck bumps in or rams into something, the nukes go off. So this team is called in, this demolition team called the Blast Corps, and their job, your job, is to get in front of this vehicle in its path and clear out everything. Mountains, buildings, houses, water towers, trees, you name it. Sometimes you have to move things, like there's for example, there's a part where it's going to basically go over a body of water, and it's not driving over a bridge, and they can't turn to go to the bridge, so you have to make a bridge, stuff like that. That premise alone is like, okay. And the vehicles that you get in, they range from anywhere from like a standard bulldozer to a dump truck, which, okay, so the bulldozer, you use the blade to shove into things and destroy it. The dump truck, you actually do like donuts and stuff. You skid basically the back end of the bulldozer or the dump truck into things to demolish it. You have cars that you do the same thing. I feel like there's a word there, Chris, that I'm being really stupid today and can't think of the word. What is it whenever you have a vehicle and you sharply turn and apply the brakes at the same time and you skid?
Power slide?
Yeah, power slide. Thank you. That's what I'm looking for. I feel like there's a more generic real world car phrase, but power slide works perfect because us video gamers had to play Super Mario 64 or Mario Kart 64 and know what that is. So most of the standard four-wheeled vehicles, like the trucks and the cars you get, that's typically what you do. You'll power slide into something to destroy it. You also have these bipedal robot things that you basically use it to roll into. So you'll get a running start, and the robot will duck down, and you'll go into this giant mechanical rolling ball, and that will demolish things. You have another one that has these jetpacks, and you will fly up into the air and basically do like a Mario style butt stomp, but with your feet actually. So you'll flip in the air and propel yourself downward on top of things to destroy them. Really cool premise. Having it sold to me that way was, we're talking again in 98, 99 when I played this game. Very interesting mechanics, very cool premise, very cool setup. And the more I played it, the more I enjoyed it. For those that want to play this game, I have played it within the past 3 or 4 years. It is still accessible to this day, still playable. I've never seen another game that came close to this. I don't know if there's ever been a remaster. It may have been re-released on some, maybe like an Xbox Live or something. But from the graphics to the music to everything holds up. But I will challenge you. I will warn you. This game does get challenging the further you go in. A little over past the halfway, maybe even the 3/4 mark. These levels get really hard. I mean, you'll see the truck coming, and it's like you got 40 seconds to get the first things knocked out, and they're very difficult. You got to switch vehicles. You have to race back to where you are. You have to make like hairpin turns right on track. You have to, if you're using the bipedal robot, you have to roll at the right angle and get as much of the damage done as you can. But in that challenge is also the fun of this game. It never steers away from the premise. You're trying to clear out everything in the path of this oncoming vehicle, and or trying to make a path for it to safely travel forward. I want to say that I have beaten this game at least once. I've gotten pretty far in getting 100%, but the base game alone, it already gets very challenging toward the end. The challenges get fucking, they're critical. I mean, you've got a 5-minute level and you have like half a second of playtime, of wiggle room. It's you have to make the exact precise turns. You have to get out of the vehicle at the precise time. You got to line up the vehicle to where you can get out of one and get in another one correct at the exact right time. You have to, if there's 5 buildings, you have to get all 5 in one go. If you get 4.5, that's not good enough. Think GDQ levels of precision, and those challenges get that difficult. But again, in that difficulty, I still found it fun. So I recommend it again, even to this day. I think it's cool. I think that's just a solid fucking premise. Very cartoony, out there, like whatever, but you play it and you have a really good time.
Mm-hmm.
Bloody Roar. This is a PlayStation title from 1997. The premise for this is a fighting game, and you have 2 forms, a human form and a beast form. So your character, I believe on a whim, can press a combination of buttons and change into an animal. There's a wolf, there's a tiger, there's a mole, there's a rabbit, all kind of animals. At the end of the day, unfortunately for me, as some of the other games in this list, and most all of them in this category are for me, this is a fighting game. So even when I played this back in the day, I did have fun turning into animals and trying out the roster. I think I had the most fun with I'm probably going to get his name wrong. It's not Byaku. I forget his name, but he was the mole character. I liked him the most. But at the end of the day, and I honestly it's been so long. It's been 98, 99 since I played this game. I don't remember if you had characters you could unlock, but once I did what I could do in the game, I said, all right, well, time to move on, and I did. But, for what it is, for the idea of transforming into beasts, it was pretty cool. I'm guessing you never played this, Chris, since you didn't have
nope.
This wasn't on your list.
Never. Yeah. I don't even think I ever heard of it.
Yeah, it's they've had several sequels to this. I'm not even gonna try to guess at an amount because I don't want to be wrong, but the series seemed to catch on for a good while. But yeah, again, because it was a fighting game, once I got the characters or whatever in the game unlocked, I just kind of moved on. Frantically searching for that character's name because it's you would think that this game that dealt with that had a bunny as a character, that would be my go-to, but no, I like this. Yeah, Bakuryu was his name. Yeah, and he could turn into a mole. He did a lot of like slashing combos and whatnot. So that's about the best that I remember. Bomberman 64. I'm so glad you played this, Chris. Why don't you go off? Why don't you lead this one off?
Yeah, I mean, Bomberman is one of those games where you can just pick it up and have fun for however long you want, and then put it back down until next time. And Bomberman 64 was no different there. I'm trying to think how... Was this the... Well, okay, it is the first 3D game in the Bomberman series. That's what I was trying to think of.
I'd say so, yeah.
Yeah, being on the 64. Yeah, it's just... You run around, you drop bombs, and try to blow up other things. Refresh my memory. How did 64 take advantage of the 3D?
Mainly with the analog stick and being in 3D. Also having multi-tiered like floors, so you could walk up pathways. You could use bombs to create stairways up. That's really what it was. And also this game, so thinking back to older Bomberman games, what I feel the general world knows about Bomberman, when you think of a Bomberman game, it's a top-down view, and there's like almost what looks like a maze set up, so a bunch of brick walls, and these, however many, usually like 4 Bombermen, are running around this cave and dropping bombs down and trying to either open up new pathways and or destroy the other Bombermen. That is in this game, but done on a 3D level. For one, Bomberman 64, I believe while it had a multiplayer game or a multiplayer variant, that it was predominantly a single player game. So there was an adventure storyline added to this game. And there were it was like a giant kingdom with multiple areas, and every area had, multiple other areas, stages inside the areas, and you ran around as Bomberman, dropping bombs and blowing up things and gaining power-ups, and a fairly good amount of puzzle solving as well, as far as like terrain navigation, trying to get from point A to point B. So yeah, just the Bomberman formula that but set in more of a adventure style mindset. Your power-ups are still there. You're still, of course, using bombs to destroy things, but you're also using them to solve puzzles and traverse terrain. Much like Blast Corps, I will also warn the audience, this game as well does get fairly difficult later on. I've watched some speed runs of this as well, and it's crazy it's always crazy seeing what GDQ runners do, what any speedrunner can do to a game, but even they'll tell you, like, some of these puzzles, especially if you're trying to get, like, all the medallions and everything in the game, they get very difficult later on. An example is, so in this game, if, let's say you're Bomberman, you're walking forward, there's a pit there. Bomberman cannot jump. He does not jump in this game. But you can throw down a bomb into the pit. You can throw a bomb down and kick it into the pit. And then when Bomberman moves forward, he bounces off the bomb. Extrapolate that. Because later on, you can do that an infinite amount of times. You can drop a bomb down and then drop another bomb on top of it, which makes the second bomb jump a little higher and it lets you get to, it gets very puzzle intensive. And I can't remember if it's time that is the major killer or if it's just maybe you destroying things that you shouldn't. Since you blew up this wall now, or this box, you needed that box to traverse, but now you don't have it there, so you have to go back. But in any event, the challenges in this game do get very intense. As far as just a puzzle adventure style game, man, I love this game. I've always had a good time with it. It's amazing how little this game gets talked about, but it was fun for the 64. Mm-hmm. And yeah, I agree, Chris. It used the analog stick it used the 3D fairly well. Oh boy, here's a good one. Whew, here's a real good one. Breath of Fire 3. This is, bar none, the best Breath of Fire in existence, in my opinion. Breath of Fire 4 comes right underneath it. Probably Breath of Fire 3, Breath of Fire 2. Breath of Fire 2, then Breath of Fire 1. And for those that are asking about Breath of Fire Dragon Quarter, I don't know what that is. I have no idea what that is, so I don't know why there's 4 Breath of Fires. There is a 6th one, but I think that's like a phone game, Japan only. I've never played it, so I have nothing to say about it. This right here, Breath of Fire 3. Capcom RPG, the third in the Breath of Fire franchise, and oh man, what can I say bad about this game? I mean, it really isn't a whole lot. You're talking about sprite-based graphics with well-designed 3D backgrounds, great music, classic Breath of Fire battle system, the dragon gene system for your main character. So the idea there is you find these crystals all throughout the world, and every crystal will let your main character, which is inherent in him, turn into a type of dragon. But you can also mix these genes together, either 2 or 3 at a time, and those combinations will give you a different type of dragon with different, more powerful properties and whatnot. Every character is unique. They all have their own story, their own way of playing in battle. The entire story of the game is phenomenal. The dynamic between your main character and your childhood friend and your childhood older brother, so to speak. This game, I have played this game multiple times, and I love it. I mean, it's up there in my opinion, a severely still unheard of RPG. I would say if I did have a negative, Chris, maybe it would be the desert, maybe, but I know how to navigate it. It took me a while to understand it the first time I played it, like everybody else, but I can traverse the desert now and no problem. For the audience that doesn't know, they have a sequence where you have to traverse this huge desert, and they play a night and day cycle with it. They play on that you have to drink water constantly, but you can only carry so much water. You have to follow the stars, and you have to keep track of what to do at what star. You know, like you travel 400 steps forward. Once you do, turn until the North Star is at your left, and it's a big to do. It can take you an hour or so to do it in real life, and it's like 4, 5, 6 days in game. But meh, it's fine. Once you get past that, it is what it is. The rest of that game is so good on so many levels. Chris, I'm glad you played this. What can you tell me about your experiences in Breath of Fire 3?
So I, without realizing it, kind of ruined my experience with this game.
Okay.
It is the only Breath of Fire I've ever played. I own this game.
Uh-huh.
But when I played it and I beat it, I cheated.
Okay.
So I used, Game Shark to get myself up to level 99 rather quickly. Which for this game, and I can't remember exact mechanics, so I'd appreciate if you could elaborate on this. But my understanding after the fact was that there are things that only occur at certain levels. There was something I want to say with the main character's ability, or with some of the character's ability, something had a level gap on it, so I missed all these cool things or something.
If I'm not mistaken, and as much as I love this game, I better not, Danby, but so as you increase levels in this game, abilities unlock. Magic abilities unlock. That's about the extent that I remember. So if you went from 1 to 99, you missed that, getting this spell at level 10, this level at spell level 15, this at 25, etc., etc. I don't remember if specific gene things unlock as your character levels up. I thought those only occur when you found the genes out in the world. But yeah, that's about the best that I can remember. I mean, aside from the general, I beast this game with one hand, I mean, that can usually ruin some experiences. I don't know what storyline you may have ruined for yourself.
Yeah, I don't think it's anything story related. I think it's just the experience, aside from just, cheating in general. It's something extra. So this one has always been on my list to go back and play properly. So I can give it its proper justice.
It's definitely worth it, man. There are quite a few bosses I could think of. I mean, right off the bat, there's a skeleton dragon boss that gave me a hell of a time. But there are definitely some difficult bosses in this game. The game in general, I've always been a fan. It has one of the funniest moments in an RPG I've ever seen. I won't spoil it, but so many moments with this game. I have so many of the songs stuck in my head. I have so many of them on my playlist. So many of the sound effects from the game. Yeah, it's got a special place in my heart. Damn good RPG, and I just to this day I still can't believe that as much as people tout loving old sprite-based graphics. I mean, hello, this game is phenomenal. We'll talk more about Breath of Fire 3 when that year comes out down the road. But again, that's pretty close. But just all aspects of gaming considered, I always prefer 3 over 4. So definitely worth mentioning on here. Yeah. Bushido Blade. This was... Am I still just reading this? Okay. Wait. Did you play Bushido Blade?
Nope.
Okay. I did. Well, this is going to be actually fairly quick. I'm about to make a lot of enemies, but that's okay. Bushido Blade, this is another Square. Remember, as we've discussed before on this podcast, Squaresoft went fucking wild. Like, they just started making all types of games. They made fighters. They made this kind of game was like a sword combat game. They made first-person shooters. They made shmup games alongside several RPGs with different types of story. One being mitochondria related, another one being like mechs and serious religious tones. So yeah, this is one of those games from Squaresoft's like, yeah, we do all kind of shit time period. And this was a sword combat game. The idea behind this is that instead of fighting games having meters and being, you know, my super versus your super versus my combo versus your blocking, etc. This was, hey, if I fucking cut your arm off, you're dead. If I stab you in the face, you're dead. If I deal a mortal blow to you, you're dead. I didn't like Bushido Blade. I didn't like it, and I've never played the sequel. I borrowed Bushido Blade from someone, and maybe if I had played this with some people, it'd be a little different, but that I just never got my head around, nor did I care to get my head around the mechanics of this game. I would assume that it's kind of a loose version of rock, paper, scissors, and in a way that Bushido could be. You know, if I have my blade up in the air and I strike downward, you can strike from below and counter me. And maybe if your blow's faster, you'll kill me instead of me. I just didn't care. The music and the idea of the game, those aspects were very interesting to me, but actually playing the game, I was like, nah, I'm good. So, moving right along. Castlevania Symphony of the Night. Chris, you never played this?
I don't recall ever playing it.
Wow. So, very important game for me. As I mentioned earlier, this game is on my top 15 of all time. It is justly deserved to. This, while there are other games before this, kind of, we'll say Simon's Quest as an example, I feel that Symphony of the Night was almost a Final Fantasy VII level of popularity for Metroidvania. You know, when people think of Metroidvania games, they think of Super Metroid, and I would argue that they think of Symphony of the Night. You know, you have this large, sprawling map, and you have multiple places to go. Places are going to be blocked off, and you have to find keys, power-ups, everything that I said earlier. That's what this game is. What puts this above lots of games like this, for me, one is nostalgia. Got no problem admitting that. I mean, I played this game back in the day, hearing that it was something like Simon's Quest, hearing that it was a Castlevania game, and that had me interested. But then I played it and fell in love. So many good things about this game. Number one, off the bat, sprite-based graphics. Again, beautiful sprite-based graphics. A lot of Mode 7-ish visuals to a lot of bosses and enemies all over the place. Tons of different enemies. A lot of variety. A lot of different types of things you're going to fight in this game. Two, the music. Phenomenal. Symphony / rock mixtures. They all fit the areas that you hear them in. So much good music in this game. So much good music. Good sound effects as well. Good sound design, period. Alucard, the main character, levels up like an RPG character would, so his stats go up. You can also find weapons and armor and accessories to equip onto Alucard to make him more powerful. And a lot of those weapons that you equip will have different effects. You know, sometimes they'll throw out blades. Sometimes they'll have like, you'll slash and there'll be like a series of blades in front of you. Well, some weapons have different effects like that. You find relics that let you do different things, like change form. You can change into like a mist form, which lets you pass through certain walls. You find like a wolf form that lets you speed across. You find familiars that you can bring with you that attack things automatically, and just all kind of stuff. What really puts this game on the map for people is the percentage. This game is not 100% long. It's 200. I think it's actually 202, 204, something like that. It's over 200%. The reason why is you can go through this game A to B. And this is going to take you a while. Going from, you go left to right, you find out there's a door. On the right, you need a key for. You go back to the left, you go up, and you find jump boots that let you find down. You let you go down below, find a key, go back to the door. You're going to be doing this for a while. You can keep doing that throughout this game, and there's multiple enemies, multiple bosses, multiple passages, etc. And then you can beat the game, and you'll get an ending, and then that's it. But there is a secret boss that when you beat him, the whole entire castle that you just fought in gets flipped upside down. New enemies, new bosses, new everything pretty much, except for the fact that you're fighting in the same castle upside down. So the terrain looks familiar, but it's also new. And there, what this really should translate to the audience, what it translated to me at a young age, content. There's a lot of shit to do in this game. I mean, just mapping out the game alone is going to take you a long time. But trying to find every relic, trying to find every weapon, all that stuff, it's just, there is too much to do in this game. And yeah, I've gotten the max percentage at least twice. I think the first time it ever happened, I erroneously gave myself the max percentage because it was something crazy, Chris. Like, I was in this, the maps are like squared off, and I was like up in the top left-hand corner of this square, and I was flying up there as like a bat or the mist, and I was flying everywhere in that area, and I kept pulling the map up, and it wouldn't give it to me. Like, I'd leave the area, I'd come back in, I'd turn the game off, turn it back on, go back. Like, it just flat out would not give me. I'm like, come on, man, I'm there. I'm right here. Just open up, and it never did. For some reason, that never happened on my second time I tried it, but I've been all the way through this game. It does get very challenging, does get very difficult, but, oh, man, it's just fun. It's lots of fun. If you want a quintessential idea of what a Metroidvania game is, this is one of the old school reasons right here. Castlevania Symphony of the Night, equaled by Super Metroid, period. Clay Fighter 63 and the third. Real quick about this one, I have always had this fond little love for the Clay Fighter series. They are arguably garbage when it comes to fighting games. Their controls are a little wonky. The combos aren't really that good. Like, it's a very bulky / broken-ish fighting game, period. I come to this game for the humor. The combos that they do are funny. They have little spoof things they say for combos. Instead of saying like super combo and ultra combo, they say like itty bitty combo and triple brown Betty combo and lame combo, like stuff like that. It has a humorous charm to it. Maybe not so much today, but it did for me back in the day. Darkstalkers 3. I just want to throw out there that Darkstalkers, a Capcom fighting franchise, is still out there, still doing it. And I mean, it's basically a Street Fighter game, but they put monsters in it. You know, there's a werewolf, a merman, a vampire, a Frankenstein, a cat girl, a yeti, and they're still doing it in 1997. Diddy Kong Racing. So this game has a large following and a large fandom, and yes, I have played Diddy Kong Racing, and yes, I have had fun with it, and I wish you had played this game, Chris, just because, and it's fine if you didn't, because the audience can do this, but I've always wanted to hear people that really love this game. I wanted them to try to help me understand why, even though I played this and Mario Kart 64, and even though I feel like there's more that Diddy Kong Racing offered than Mario Kart 64, I still prefer Mario Kart over it. I don't really know how to explain that.
I think part of it might be polish. I've watched the game played, and just looking at it, Mario Kart 64 just overall looks like a much more polished, well-done game from a, macro perspective.
Yeah. It could be. It could be. I'd have to go look back and find a comparison for what. I don't know if it was the weapons that Diddy Kong Racing had, or I think there were also other vehicles. I think you could race, you could fly. I felt like as I was playing Diddy Kong Racing, whenever I played it, it's like, yeah, this is fun. This is kart racing with stuff involved. Yeah, fun. But if I had the two side by side, I'd always go back to Mario Kart 64.
Oh yeah.
Doom 64. Oh, man. Really brief. It's a Doom game. It was on the 64. It used an analog stick. You have to put yourself in my mind frame, folks. This is back in the day where I still had never played Doom for the PC. And I have to look at... I'm not trying to defend Doom 64 because I don't think you need to. I just think I needed people to understand that, like, with it's Doom 64. It was Doom with more. It was Doom with more graphics added to it, but it was still the same Doom formula. Still had the creepy-ish music to it. You're slaying demons in hell. That's all it was to it. I played it through a few times. I enjoyed it. That's as easy as it gets.
Yeah, real quick for you, but if you're about to move on, for you and the audience, I just want to make sure you all are aware that I actually did not own a 64 of my own until around 2005.
Yeah.
So I only played 64 with friends.
Yeah.
So a lot of the games that are single player, even though they're really good, I probably never got a chance to play. Like we'll talk about, GoldenEye in a bit. I never played the single player of that. I only played multiplayer because that's the only, time I got to play it was playing with other people. So, yeah.
And even though it was so late in your life, you said I mainly play with friends. What a great thing to play with friends.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
What a great way to play. The Nintendo 64, like the Dreamcast, like the original Xbox, 4 controller ports. There you go.
Mm-hmm.
Quite literally one of the earliest designs for, hey, get 3 other people together and play these 4-player multiplayer games. No wiretap needed, no none of that. And so many 64 games designed around that. So still good thing. Yep. Einhander. So guys and gals, remember earlier when I was talking about Squaresoft doing the thing and making all these crazy games? Here's another one. A shmup. A shoot 'em up, for those that don't know that phrase. Shoot 'em up is when you see games that are, you think of a spaceship, either side-scrolling or vertically scrolling, and you shoot out a bunch of missiles or bullets or lasers or whatever, and you're killing everything on the screen. That's what this was. The ship that you fly in and the enemies are all 3D polygon designed. However, the gameplay is still side-scrolling. So, one beautiful game. All around. The levels that you fight, that you fly through, the enemies that you fight, the bosses that you fight, very well designed all the way around. Great music. I keep saying that because I have to. I love the game. I love video game music, and the music in this game designed very well. Sound design all around is good. It's been a while, folks. Please don't kill me, but I don't remember if I want to say that you could pick from different flying craft, and depending on what airframe you picked would allow you to do different things. But I also remember, I'm trying to think. Yeah, I can't remember if it's like maybe whatever you picked gave you the option to have more weapons or whatever, but I do remember there was another bonus to this game is there are multiple weapons that you can get, and somehow, whether it's every ship can do this or not, I can't remember, but you can have 2 weapons at the same time. So you could have a machine gun as your top weapon, so it's just firing out just constant bullets in front of you. And on the bottom, you could have like a spread gun that was shooting out that way. You could also swap where these the position for these weapons, so you could be shooting things out of the back instead of in forward, and all of that. Just all around, I've played through Iron Hunter multiple times. It gets difficult like any shmup does, and it gets difficult the farther you get in, the farther you go up on the difficulty. But oh man, just a gem for a shmup game. And again, from Squaresoft, this predominantly RPG company knocked a shmup right out of the park, in my opinion. I wish there was more. I wish this game would get updated. But I will tell you folks now, you can play this game right now as is, and it's solid. Holds up just fine. Fallout. This is a Chris one right here, and I can hear the audience. Wait. I know you and Adam talked for a long time about Fallout 3. Yes, I have played Fallout 3 and all the expansions to Fallout 3. I've never played Fallout 1 or Fallout 2, so let's go ahead and get that out right now.
Yeah, and Fallout 3 and so on are very different games, and one end, I believe, too. I'd have to go back and double check, too. But the first one in this, what I think it's fair to say a behemoth series at this point, it was an open world game, but it was isometric and it was turn-based. Mm-hmm. So it's a bit of a departure from, or I should say the new games are a bit of a departure from this. I did not play this when it came out. I actually went back and tried to play this a few years ago, and it didn't really age well, but it wasn't bad. It was interesting. I do want to go back and finish it one day, or at least make more progress. But I just wanted to mainly recognize, the beginnings of this franchise.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's grown into quite the game today. A lot of notoriety with the latest one released, but apparently there's a Fallout game out there for everyone. One of them is for everyone. Fighting Force. I believe there is a Fighting Force variant on the 64. I'm not sure if that's this one, but I do remember the first Fighting Force for me being on the Sony PlayStation. There may have also been one on the Dreamcast. I'm not sure, but regardless, Fighting Force came out this year. This is a...
Sorry.
That's fine.
The PlayStation was the first version of it, but they re-released it on Windows and Nintendo 64.
Okay. Perfect. Yeah, this is a 3D beat 'em up. Best way to put it. I don't know how far I ever got into this game. This is definitely not one that I've mastered or anything. I made it quite a few levels in, and for a beat 'em up game, it was pretty good. Unfortunately, I only played this a few times, and this is probably around 97 or 98 when I did play it. So it's been some time, but just figured I'd mention it because it was a beat 'em up, and it was a 3D beat 'em up, and I enjoyed it what little bit I played. I'm also trying to buy us some time because we got a couple important games coming up, and I mean they're about to come wham bam here quick.
Yeah.
Number one, I can't believe you played this, Chris. This is odd, but
right.
Final Fantasy VII came out in 1997.
Mm-hmm.
forgive us, audience, now for any regurgitation that we're about to get into, because I realize that this is one of those RPGs that we have talked about ad nauseum several times before. But this is the 97 review, and we gotta talk a little bit about Final Fantasy VII. Chris, by all means, man.
Oh man. So while Lunar was essentially the first real RPG I played, or at least got into, Final Fantasy VII, I would say, was the most impactful RPG I ever played. Just for even at the time, without even knowing anything about the genre, not even talking about that impact, I'm talking about impact to me as a video game player. The experience of it alone, just going through this, experiencing the, story, which was, I can understand some people saying it was confusing at parts, whatnot, but overall, a pretty good story, and the mechanics to it, and how much there was to do. That's just the bare bones statement for this game. The materia system is probably still, I'd have to sit down and think of something to, place above. It's probably still one of my favorite systems in an RPG to this day. It gave you so many possible combinations of things you could do with your equipment having the slots and linked or unlinked, and bonuses depending which one it was, whether it was armor or weapon, and all the mini games. There's just, man, what a game.
Yeah.
This was.
And I realized that the outset, hearing people talk about this game it had to have been unnerving. We're talking about, aside from people that had played, say, Phantasy Star. When you think of typical RPGs at this time, they're typically set in a fantasy setting.
Yeah.
They're set in yay olden times, and there's castles and princesses and magic and all this stuff involved. And here comes Final Fantasy VII, and in a pseudo way set in I don't want to say steampunk, but a somewhat altered steampunk-ish future. It's dealing with there is a corporation, so to speak, that has this overmind mentality. That's they're the rich on high, and they're dumping all over the poor down below. There's vehicles. There's fucking cars and motorcycles and shit in this game. There's definitely a healthy mix in this game of somewhat modern and yet still older, RPG mentalities.
Yeah, it's kind of like a alternative technology type thing. It's not true, at any point in time in history, are all these things together. It's kind of like this is an alternative way technology progressed, with Mako, kind of being the core of it. In addition, I'd have to sit down and actually look at the lore of the world a little bit, but I imagine, just in the context of this, and this is just me guessing for the most part, I would imagine this is kind of what would happen if, we start with gasoline, start developing technology, but then we find, Mako, which is better than gas and has so much more utility. What are all the things we can do? So then we start, training soldiers and, creating materia and building cars and technology and all these machines, airships, what have you. All these things are possible with this new material, but it's not,
it's not really,
I wouldn't say it's too futuristic at all. It's a pretty good balance.
So there's that to discuss. There's also the story itself. You're dealing with a character that you're going through the story being fed one thing, and then slowly over time things aren't adding up. Things don't make sense until later the truth gets revealed, and it's like, wow. just taking a couple steps back and just adding more light to what Chris said earlier, I do not think for a moment he was the only one when it comes to, this was a monumental RPG in my life. This game, as far as the news, as far as media, as far as the population as a whole was concerned, this is the RPG that it not only put all video games further up on the map, but it solidified RPGs on the map.
Mm-hmm.
And that says a lot. This was from the commercials to the hype, the popularity. This had people going out and going, what's the deal with this guy and the spiky hair and the giant sword? And for a lot of people, that's all it took. And then you got into the game and had, iconic characters like Tifa and Cloud and Sephiroth and Nanaki and the weapons and the materia magic system and all this stuff. And it's a very well put together RPG that if you can steel yourself to the understandably dated 1997 crazy wonky polygon graphics, still solid game to this day, from story to music to all that stuff. I played this game a year or two ago, and that was one of the things that I really harped on, was that I can't believe how well put together this game really is. I can't believe that I didn't realize how well put together it was. Everything lines up, everything fits, and it all plays out exceptionally well. While not my favorite Final Fantasy, it is definitely up there with this is Square got this shit right list. For more current news on Final Fantasy VII, for those that don't know, Final Fantasy VII is supposed to be getting a remake, and that release date is question marks. But this is like crack for news. People want this. People have been wanting a Final Fantasy VII remake, and it's coming, and it's supposed to have some various changes to the game as a whole. That those changes have been met with either fanfare or burn the whole house down. So we'll see when the game comes out. But the reason why it gets so much both fanfare and hatred across the board is because this game was so popular. Yeah. I mean, this is the quintessential RPG back then, and it might even still be so to this day.
Yeah, I mean, it sets the bar, even to this day, of a lot of standards.
Mm-hmm. They found a good formula to mix a lot of good things.
Oh, yeah. And if any of our audience, especially those that are RPG fans, have not played Final Fantasy VII for one reason or another, maybe you're just in denial about how good a game it is. I know there are those people out there. As of 2.5 weeks ago, it is now available on pretty much everything. They released the Switch and Xbox One versions. And that's on top of it already being on PlayStation 4, of course, on Windows, of course, Steam, etc. They did release a straight up Windows version, but then they released it on Steam as well. But it's also on iOS and Android.
Yep.
So you really have no excuse not to play it other than your... Yeah.
Massive availability, folks. So you have plenty of ways to try it out. And again, it's not like we're trying to like pull the wool over anybody's eyes here, but you do need to know that in case that graphic style butts you right in the face from the get-go. We're talking 1997, and we're talking about polygon graphics. You're going to see characters that look blocky. You're going to see some I can't believe they went with that style. You got to just take that at face value. It's not even that horrible. I mean, there are a lot of good magic effects and a lot of good summonings and cutscenes and all. There's stuff to even it out.
All things considered, on a 3D scale, for most 3D games do not age well. Final Fantasy VII does okay.
Yeah, I agree. It held up just fine for me. And I didn't even play the PC version that had, the graphics were a little bit updated. I played the old PlayStation version, just worked that bad boy out. I have played the PC version just for comparison, and I mean it's essentially like taking the sharpness and toning it up a little bit. It's not like the greatest thing since sliced bread. That's gonna be the remake. The remake's coming out, and it's RE Resident Evil remaking. It's gonna look completely different. So.
It's going to look more like
how that turns out.
Final Fantasy 15.
Right. But as it sits today, I think Chris agrees as well. Yeah, go play this. See what the hype is about. It lives up to it, even today.
Yeah, and going back to the game itself on PlayStation, was this your first multi-disc PlayStation game?
I don't know. I could go back through the list of games that came out before this that were on our year in review and see if one of those matched up. But I would say this was one of the early ones.
Yeah.
I don't want to be wrong there. I will say, Chris, that I think Resident Evil 1 was like Jill was a disc and Chris was a disc, but I think that's wrong. I don't know. I'd have to research.
All right, I was just curious. I think this is the first multi-disc game I played, which was kind of mind blowing at the time because, there's an RPG that needs to be on 3 CDs.
Yep. And you understand a lot of that. A lot of that goes to pretty much the graphics. There's a lot of movie cutscenes in it, but it's not like all the game is large because of that. There is a lot, folks. There's a lot of content in this game. This is a standard. Just going through the game, this is a standard 60 to 80 hour RPG. That's not including going out and getting all the summons and all the materials, and God help you mastering all the materials and all that. If you want a chunky RPG, this is that. Yeah,
and for reference, kind of the speed run of this, basically just beating the game, the any percent speed run is like on the original version is just under 8 hours. It's like 7.5 hours, 7:40 or something like that. But the 100% run of this game is in excess of 21 plus hours.
Yeah, a lot to do. Great game, still holds up. Definitely something for you to check out if you're an RPG fan. If anything, just to see, all right, fine, what's this Final Fantasy VII nonsense about? There you go. You'll play it. You'll get something out of it, I guarantee it. Another Final Fantasy that came out in 1997, Final Fantasy Tactics. Holy crap. We got 2 Final Fantasy games this year, but hold up. Can't be. And it's not. Because Final Fantasy VII is a standard, as you know, RPG. Final Fantasy Tactics is a tactics-based game. At this point, Chris, I hadn't played this is my first. I never played an Ogre Battle. I forget when Vandal Hearts came out, but even if it did, I didn't play any game like that until this.
Same.
This was my first. So many great things to say about Final Fantasy Tactics as well. And again, forgive the regurgitation because we have talked ad nauseum about Final Fantasy Tactics, but it's such a good game. First off, right off the bat, I do want to throw out the 2 top qualities of this game for me is the music and the story. I love the way they talk in this game. The way that the narration and the story plays out reminds me so much of why I loved Final Fantasy XII. It's set in that same type of era, same type of storytelling and mind frame. I love it. Music, all the music is orchestrated, fucking beautifully composed, and I love it. I love it to death. The tactics is tactics. I'll give you that. It's, you have characters on a grid. There are varying levels of varying levels of height across the terrain. So you could be fighting on a mountain and you got to climb down, etc., etc. It's, set your characters up, put them in a party, put them on the field, and move them around like chess pieces. That's the easiest way I can explain a tactics game to people that don't know what tactics are. Your characters level up in this game. The job system that Final Fantasy is known for is present here, so you can start out as one type of character and level up and cross class and do. You could be a ninja, a dragoon, a summoner, a monk, a thief, a warrior, a paladin. Like, all those jobs are there. When you want to look at, say, Final Fantasy 14 and go, what job should they put in next? Look at Final Fantasy Tactics, because damn near they're all there.
Yeah.
The story of this game, I gotta hammer that home, man. Here's what we'll do, folks. I'm gonna ask you a simple question. Do you like Game of Thrones? You go, okay, well, yeah, of course I do. Who doesn't, right? Okay. Do you like the way that story is done? Like, there's political intrigue, there's backstabbing, there's who did what, there's figuring all this shit out. There's Final Fantasy Tactics for you. That's predominantly what that story revolves around, and it does it so well. It gets a little out there. It's not all about ye old knights. It goes into some cultish stuff and all that, but it all fits. And it's a solid story. It's a solid game. It's not for the faint of heart. I can tell you that of the 4 or 5 times that I've went through this game, the final, 3 or 4 missions will absolutely staple your fucking dick to a wall. I mean, they're difficult.
Oh, yeah.
There are some that are like, here's a list of the, 6 jobs that you better hope you have 2 of them, and this is how you need to have them step by step, otherwise you're not going to win. They're critical. They're crucial. But honestly, only 20% of the tactics gameplay is why I play this game. I played it to get through the battle and get to the next story and get to the next little beautifully music accompanied little scene of story.
Mm-hmm.
I talked enough. Chris, go, please.
I really, 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 really loved the job system on this game.
Mm-hmm.
All these options, all the, combinations you could do, using abilities from other jobs on the one you're on or your character's on. The whole, going through hiring, NPCs to become, your characters and trying to level them. And I'm trying to think, you could even, recruit monsters into your party. Yeah. And have them evolve or whatnot. They didn't have as much customization, but still, I mean, the fact that you can have monsters on your side at all is just another thing to add to the list of all the things you have to keep in mind when you're in combat or, preparing for combat. Later in the game, you're at these really hard parts and it's like, okay, I have what feels like an infinite combination of things I could be doing. Mm-hmm. What should I be doing? How do I, okay. All right. Let's try things.
Yeah. It's
so
again,
good.
it's not for the faint of heart. It's tactics based. So, I mean, you have to go in with a strategic mind. What do I have? What classes do I have? What are they available to do? What can they do? How are they going to fare in this terrain? All right, there are the enemies. These are the skills the enemies have. Who do I have that can combat against that? Who do I have that has the best defense against it? Who's going to survive because of them? All these things. That's a lot of thinking when it comes to a tactics game. But with the way that Squaresoft has created these games, they are well designed and well worth it. And this game, again, it's just I love the music and I love the story. Hate to beat those two home because it's still a video game, but that's where my heart is for this game. The next on the list, Frogger. This is a Chris only one right here. I mean, I've played a Frogger, but we're talking Atari, so.
Mm-hmm. I mean, one behemoth to another, right? Final Fantasy to Frogger. To some people, they are absolutely on the same level. Frogger, a very popular arcade game / Atari, I guess. I never played on Atari. I never really played Atari. I don't even know if I played Frogger in the arcade, but I did. I did play Frogger on the PlayStation. And it's just a remake of the, arcade game with updated 3D graphics. Maps were, I want to say they started out basically like classic maps, and then they introduced you to, new mechanics and stuff. Mm-hmm. But it was absolutely a lot of fun. And let's see. Apparently, according to the wiki, it was one of the best-selling titles for the PlayStation.
Good.
That kind of surprises me. I figured it'd be popular, but on PlayStation, not as popular as that. But good for them.
Yeah.
And real quick, for those that don't know, Frogger is a game where you control a frog and you're like trying to jump across traffic.
Mm-hmm.
Is the basic version of it.
Yeah, simple premise, but yeah, fun. It was definitely fun back in the Atari days. It's one of those Centipede / Space Invaders level of popularity. Well known, simple design, but popular. Next up, since you mentioned Titans earlier, GoldenEye 007 for the Nintendo 64. A quintessential first-person shooter right here. People say that Halo put first-person shooters on the map as far as consoles are concerned. I would say, I could see that, but I will definitely say that crown belongs to GoldenEye. Much like Halo, you're talking about a console first-person shooter for controller ports, so it allows for multiplayer. A key difference in the two would be that you could play co-op in Halo. You can't play it in GoldenEye.
Yep.
But tons of levels to play through in GoldenEye, all varied. Tons of multiplayer maps. I mean, this game right here, this is a first-person shooter kid's fucking childhood right here. Mm-hmm. A young teenager's childhood. The game has, I'm visualizing the fucking map screen, the mission select screen right now. I don't want to cheat. I want to say that there are 6, 12, 8. There's like 20 to 25 levels in this game. And the game does a fairly decent job as far as the N64 and polygon graphics and lack of voiceover and all that stuff concerned, at recreating the movie GoldenEye. I'm a big fan of GoldenEye. I love GoldenEye. It's like my second or third favorite James Bond movie ever. So that kind of helps. But you go through missions and you play out the movie in essence. The cool part about it is, so if you were to just select, there's difficulty levels per mission, and if you select a easy difficulty, there's like one thing for you to do. If you select a higher difficulty, there are maybe 2 or 3. Another difficulty, 3 or 4, and then the hardest difficulty is there's like 6 to 7 things to do, and it's all kind of stuff. It's to take out appropriate amount of enemies, do this thing without getting seen. There's control towers around the area. You have to disable the control towers. You have to plant bombs in these specific areas. Talk to this person and get this information at a specific time. Guard this person. Stuff like that. Every mission has multiple difficulties, and the multiple difficulties not only mean more gameplay, but there are more challenges for you to do, more shit for you to do in the levels. The single player game is fucking fun as hell. I've gotten 007 difficulty on that game twice, and that's a lot. Especially the later levels, they get fucking stupid. You're walking around one level that's people could one shot you. Most of the enemies could one shot you on 007 as it is. 00 Agent. That's just a single player. I already had tons of fun with the single player. I can play single player today and have a shitload of fun with it. I still enjoy it. I love it, yes, to this day. People go, wait a minute, how? Those controls are crazy. And I'll tell you, I cheat like a motherfucker. I play GoldenEye predominantly, the 64 version, on an emulator, and I have that emulator set up to where I still use dual sticks, but I have the button. So GoldenEye was played on the 64. For those that don't know, 64 only had one analog stick. If I put a first-person shooter in your hand today and you're playing on a console or a controller, you're going to be looking for those two joysticks. You know, move forward, move back, turn left, turn right, strafe left, strafe right, look up, look down. So in GoldenEye, they had one analog stick. The other movements were controlled by the C stick, the C-pad, which is basically an up, down, left, right. It was basically another D-pad. So you can basically set an emulator, or I think even some of I think in 64 you can actually set the controls. No, I'm going to stick with the emulator. You can set the controls to mimic that. So it's a little digital, it's a little wonky, but you can play GoldenEye today as if you had two analog sticks, and that's the only way I play. And I still have fun with it. That being said, that's the single player. Single player is still fun. Great. Lots of content, lots of gameplay, lots of fun to be had, and lots of challenges to meet. Then you play the multiplayer. As archaic as it was, I got a unhealthy amount of sleep when playing GoldenEye with friends. We're talking up early in the morning, up all night, 1 to 2 hours of sleep, fucking crazy amounts of game time in multiplayer. 4-player, split screen, multiple characters, even though all the characters were all the same except for one. I always picked Boris, honestly, Chris. That was always my go-to. I always felt like Boris was faster. I don't know if that was ever proven. I don't know. I have no science behind it, but I always pick Boris. The running joke, yes, I know people have heard of this, is playing Oddjob. Oddjob was like half the height of everybody else, so it was hard as hell to hit him, and yada, yada, yada. But, I mean, okay, so you got 4-player, you got multiplayer, multiple maps to play on, and all those maps have varying levels. There are different heights, there are different rooms to go in. Some have secret rooms. There are a variety of items you can pick up, like armor. There are different weapons. You can set the game before you even go in to what kind of weapons you want. You want pistols only. You want shotguns only. You want only automatics. You only want rifles. Slappers. You just want to use hands. Do you just want to use rocket launchers? Do you just want to use mines? All kind of stuff. There were unlockables / cheats where you could add all kind of crazy shit like a paintball mode. So whenever you shot the wall or shot people, like multicolors come out. A big head mode, big hands, all kind of crazy shit. The level of customization, again, we're talking back in 1997 on the Nintendo 64, the level of customization, the level of options to play a multiplayer game was through the roof. Phenomenal. Fun. Just this game was fun in a cart, period. Sorry, Chris, I gush. Tell me, I know you played
absolutely.
GoldenEye.
Yeah, I mean, I played it with you. That was that was when I played it. My main friend I had that I played 64 with, he had the game, but we usually played Perfect Dark. But Perfect Dark didn't come out until 3 years after GoldenEye 007.
Yeah.
So there was a long period of time there where this was the game. Yeah, lots of fun multiplayer. Lots of fun with, the proximity mines and turrets and everything else. Yeah. Good times.
Yeah. It's it's really the sad part about this is oh, by the way, GoldenEye is also on my wall, top 15.
Nice.
Top 15. It's up there with let's see, what other. There's that and Battlefield 3 are on my wall. That's my 2 first-person shooters. So that goes to show you that, like, that I have a high standard when it comes to first-person shooters, and Battlefield 3 blows that out of the water. But GoldenEye as well is up there. The sad truth of it is, for people that... It's hard to say, Chris. If you have never played a first-person shooter, you could probably go back and play this game and maybe kind of engineer yourself into it. You could probably muscle yourself through the things that you don't know are done better today. But if you're coming from, I don't mind saying it, if you're coming from a Call of Duty, if you're coming from our early any first-person shooter where you have predominantly played it with a controller and you're used to dual analog sticks, going back and playing GoldenEye is definitely rough. And it's not just a fault of GoldenEye, folks. It's just a fact of the business that first-person shooters in general typically don't age well. It's just the way it works. The controls get better, the controls get tighter. New control schemes come out, new controlling comforts come out and make old control schemes obsolete. It's just the way that first-person shooters work. If you want a prime example, go out and play Battlefield 5 right now. Go play it. Stop playing it. Go play Doom for the Super Nintendo. Not just the fact that you're playing on a Super Nintendo. I can hear all that. Okay, go play Doom on the PC, regardless. You can't look up. You can't look down. You're always moving around left and right. You're turning. You can strafe as well, but there's no up and down look at all. There's no reticle. You just point your gun directly in their direction and fire, and your bullets magically hurt them. So much has changed. And as far as age is concerned, GoldenEye 007 for the 64 hasn't aged well at all, because most pretty much no first-person shooters do. But if we were talking about 1997, oh yeah, GoldenEye is a fucking gem in that year, a gift to the gaming world. Gran Turismo, PlayStation title right here. It's all you, Chris.
Yeah, so when you think of racing games, one of the earlier ones, and I don't even know, I think we're past it at this point, should be, for sure, Ridge Racer. That was, one of the first big racing games, same PlayStation era, etc. But Gran Turismo isn't just a racing game. It's a sim racing game or a simulation racing game. What's the difference, you ask? Well, you're not just picking out of like 3 or 4 car presets. This game is based on real cars or similar real cars, I'm pretty sure they were all licensed cars, so they're probably all actual cars, but there may be some, special ones in there. Mm-hmm. But for perspective, when the PS Classic came out, I did play Ridge Racer, and there were like 4 cars in it. Gran Turismo, the very first Gran Turismo, by the way, has 140 cars.
Wow.
So you have your pick of what you want to race with. There are only 11 tracks, according to the wiki, which seems kind of small, but I guess for one, maybe that is the case. And this isn't the best one in the series either. This is just where Gran Turismo started. There's a lot of time that can be sunk into picking your car, tuning your car, upgrading your car, etc. That makes this, such a leap from your standard racing game. And I'll talk about Gran Turismo a lot more when we get to the second one, because that's where I put all my time in the series. But this is where it started.
Right. Definitely want to put this on a list of a racing franchise that it's up there, folks.
And it's
go ahead.
It's rated as one of the highest video games of all time. It has a 95% across all the publications back then. I don't know how updated those are, or how, what time frame that encompasses, but 95%, that's
yeah. So next on the list we have Grandia. I didn't put this down because I don't feel I've given enough justice. I've played probably the first 2 hours of this game and have put it down. I played this, I think it was last year I tried playing through this. Maybe it was the year before that. I feel like it was last year because I remember talking to you when you were on here. But yeah, it's just it didn't capture me right away, immediately right away. It could have been one of those games where I got to give it some more time, but I didn't. But my Grandia is definitely Grandia 2. So I try to go back and play this one. So for perspective here, folks, I played Grandia 2 on the Dreamcast when it came out. And years, we're talking 10, 15 plus years later, I finally got around and go, yeah, I need to go back and play the first one to see what it was like. And it's different, of course, because on the Dreamcast it was a polygon 3D RPG. This one's old school on the PlayStation. It's just the game didn't grab me. It's fine. Not every RPG has to, but maybe I should go back and try it again later. But this is definitely another Chris game as well.
Well, barely. I threw on the list just to talk about it briefly because I feel like I saw some amount of Grandia. I do have Grandia 2, which I didn't even know I owned until I started looking at something for Dreamcast related. I think we're doing a Dreamcast list. I was like, oh, I own this game? The second one, I mean. I feel like the first one's familiar, but I look at like screenshots and I'm like, I don't know. I don't remember anything.
Well, that's fine. It can be a placeholder as well. Unfortunately, the Grandia series didn't go too far. I know of Grandia 1, 2, and 3. There may be some other ones, I'm not sure. But yeah, I came into the middle of that pack. I came in with Grandia 2 and had a damn good time. Yeah, well, just a little nod to Grandia. You're there. We see you there. The Grand Stream Saga, I played through this game one time back in high school, Chris. So again, we're talking fucking 2 decades ago. A friend of mine got it out of the blue, played it, beat it, let me borrow it. I went through it. I wish I could tell you a lot about it. I unfortunately can't because of the time, and I've only played through it once. I do remember there being a thing where as you go through the dungeons and levels, you basically kind of piece together armor, like piece by piece. Like get the gauntlets and the helmet and all, and all the armor like equips to you real time, so you see whatever you put on. And I thought it was interesting going through the levels and like getting new armor and seeing what they look like. I don't remember anything about the story, unfortunately. And I don't remember much about the game at all. I just figured I'd mention it. This might be one where I would go back and just see, like, what the fuck did I play? Because it felt like a standard 20, 30, 40-hour RPG, and the only thing I remember is the armor. It's bad. Bad me.
Yeah.
But could be bad on the game. It could be one. I mean, I just kind of went through the game. It might have been just a by-the-numbers RPG, and it didn't have enough to stick out. So it could be a bad game. Who knows? Klonoa Door to Phantomile. Oh man, what a charming side-scrolling 3D graphics platforming game. Oh man, I'll let you have it for a minute, man.
Yeah, this is another one of those PlayStation games of that era. We talked about a few others in the last few years since we've been talking about PlayStation. You know, this kind of generation. It was just hey, we don't have to be this, what's the word I want to looking for? It doesn't have to be this edgy game. It doesn't have to be this serious game. It doesn't, we can take a step back and do something fun, probably a, good comparison to how like Mario is just a fun platformer, there's no real seriousness to it, despite the story. And I feel like Klonoa is a similar thing. It was just a fun little platformer. I couldn't tell you anything about the story because I just played it because it was fun.
Yeah.
What about you?
I borrowed this game back in the day. I want to say from you.
Probably.
I could be wrong. If I forget who, but I remember playing it, and I have not beaten this game all the way through. I feel like I have played like the first 4 or 5 levels of this game numerous times. I've never just made it all the way through, and I don't know why, because like I said, this game is charming. It has good graphics, it has good music, it has cute little sound effects. Everything about it is like, yeah, this is a solid platformer. And the idea of you grabbing an enemy and flipping off of it or throwing it places. It adds another control to it that I like. Not the first game that did that this year either, or not the only game this year that had that control scheme, but yeah, just all around. There are several Klonoa games out there. I think it's had a remake here and there as well. So definitely a game to try out. Yeah, I'd recommend it today. Just a time note here, Chris. This is so crazy. We're 2:20 in, and we're about halfway. About halfway, a little over halfway.
Yeah.
I'll say over halfway. It's just, oh man, a packed. Now, here's the thing, though, Chris. Let's be real about this now. It is packed, but it's also packed because you and I have played a lot of these games. You know, a year could be packed. Let's just shit out a number here. There could be 300 games that came out in 1997. And there may be 300 that came out in 1998. It's just so happened we played like 40 this year. Maybe next year we only played 20. It's just
623 on the list we used.
Gotcha. You see that, folks? That's how you are actually somebody right there. But yeah, it just could be that there's 40-something games in here. We played a lot this year. Maybe we didn't play a lot in the next year. Who knows? But I like this. I like that there's a lot of games that came out this year that we were interested in. It's good stuff. Marvel's Superheroes versus Street Fighter. This is a fighting game, arcade, PlayStation, I think Dreamcast as well. This is when Marvel and Capcom were starting to team up hot and heavy, man. Getting a lot of these games with the Marvel license and the Capcom licenses together. And I played this game a little bit in the arcade. I played it mostly for the PlayStation. It's sorry, it goes to the fighting stuff again. Once I unlocked or did whatever, I kind of moved on. But I mean, it was a game where I could play as Wolverine and Ryu on the same team. Loved it. Had a good time. Enjoyed it. Mega Man Legends. Yes. So, I have mixed feelings about this, Chris, and I don't fucking know why. I have played through Mega Man Legends multiple times. I've went through the entire game at least twice. And I enjoy it. I think the voice acting is great. I think the music sets well. The 3D graphics are fine. They're fine. The upgrading system that you can do with Mega Man is cool. The story is all right as well, but I just don't feel that Mega Man Legends enough captures Mega Man for me. It feels like a side story to a Mega Man side story, if that makes any sense. But it's hard for me to I'm not going to shit on it. I'm not going to say it's bad. I'm not even going to say it's okay because I played through this game twice. I was charmed by this game back in the day considerably. But looking on it now, especially with Mega Man Legends 2, man, I'm not looking forward to that year. But I had fun. I can't act like I didn't play it. I'm not going to act like I didn't enjoy it. I did. I played it. I had a good time. But as far as like a 3D Mega Man, I feel this is not the direction I want. I want something else. What? I don't know. Game designers, wow me. But, this is okay as a game.
Yeah. So, Mega Man Legends is, in fact, the only Mega Man game I have ever beat.
Wow.
This was a, rent from our corner rental store. I rented it, played it, beat it, returned it. I don't remember a whole lot because it was so long ago and I was going through so many games back in that time frame. Renting and trying to push through in a single night to only have to rent it for 1 day or, 2 days tops, trying to do. So many of these PlayStation games and games around this time are kind of in that same area for me. But I just remember it being fun. Nothing jumped out at me, but it was just fun.
Yeah, the cute design of the serve bots, it fits, it works. All the voice acting and the characters themselves were all done they're all charming. There's a lot of good stuff in this game. I think that's good enough. I think I'll leave it there because I don't want people to think I don't like the game because I do. Obviously, I did. But anyways, moving on. Mortal Kombat 4. Okay. 3D Mortal Kombat game. Mortal Kombat before now, I don't know, somebody proves me wrong, which fine, please do, it's fine, has predominantly been sprite-based side view graphics. This was 3D combat. This game blows. I borrowed it from somebody back in the day on the PlayStation, and I thought, yeah, okay, 3D Mortal Kombat. This could be pretty good. Nope, wasn't. Number one, I already suck at fighting games to begin with, so it's not like I was, blowing this game wide open, but it was hard, clunky. The fatalities sucked. The moves sucked. The 3D, this transition to 3D was just not that good at all. There are characters like Shinnok that have transcended time. He came from this game as far as my Mortal Kombat history tells me. So it has some things that have carried forward. But as a Mortal Kombat entry, especially with a direct number on it, you go from Mortal Kombat 3. Even if you don't count like Mortal Kombat 3 Ultimate or anything, if it's just Mortal Kombat 3 to this, oh man, step down. Another Mortal Kombat that came out this year, Mortal Kombat Mythology Sub-Zero. This is a Nintendo 64 title. It may have came out for another system or two. I'm not too sure.
But PlayStation, the one that I played primarily.
Yep. The one that I played it for was for the N64, and it is a side-scrolling platforming action-ish game with featuring Sub-Zero as the main character. I think that there were some story scenes in this, or cut scenes. There was a story to the game. I don't remember the story at all. I remember the controls in the game were a little off. Not exactly the greatest platforming game in the world. If anything, this was a sound testament that, hey, if you want to make a Mortal Kombat game, guys, just keep it fighting.
Yeah, all that aside, sure, Mortal Kombat's a fighting game. When I saw this game, I wanted to play it so bad, and I never got a chance to. I might actually go back now and play it. This has refreshed that desire in my mind of wanting to go back and play it, because I never could as a kid.
Yeah. I want to say this game has been speedrun on GDQ before, and I know there's got to be a speedrunning community around it as a whole, but being the I don't want change asshole kid that I was, I had a friend, actually the friends at next to my grandmother, that had all the 64 games. They had this game, and I always brushed it off to the side. Was like, if I want to play a Mortal Kombat game, I want to play a fighting game. I don't know how I feel about this action platforming game. And of course, as life happens, I played everything else and eventually got around to, all right, fuck it, I'll try it. And I did, and I was like, nah, I'm good. So I don't even know if I made it past the second or third level, so I might not be the greatest judge for the game, but I remember not being wowed at all by the game.
It's a 35-minute to hour speedrun.
Wow. Yeah. So if that's a speed run, it may be about a 2 or 3 hour game at the most. In any event, the controls are where it's going to be at, and I was like, meh. NFL Blitz, of course, folks. I don't play sports games at all.
You skipped 2 games.
Did I?
Mischief Makers.
How did I do that? I skipped 3. Okay, let's rewind this tape.
Yeah, you did.
I know why. I scrolled my screen down too far. Okay, I blame you, spreadsheet, Google Docs, whatever you are. Holy shit! Thank you, Chris. I needed that because I skipped over my my second favorite Mega Man of all time, Mega Man X4. Oh man, this game is so fucking good in the Mega Man franchise. So I want to take people down a little trip here. Okay, you're playing Mega Man X. Number one, you're coming from an upgrade from Mega Man 1 through 6 on the Nintendo. And it's leaps and bounds away from any Game Boy Mega Man game. You're playing the Super Nintendo Mega Man. The graphics, the music, everything is already wowing you. At the very end of the intro stage, you get introduced to a new character named Zero. He is a badass. He's got long, like a blonde ponytail, and red armor, and a sword. And he is way more powerful than you. And he comes in and saves your ass. And says, hey, don't worry, X. You'll be powerful like me one day. Go Google search Egoraptor's Mega Man X retrospective. And there you go. That's all you need to know. So, in Mega Man X, you never get to play as Zero. He's there, you get to see how badass he is, and eventually, over time, you get to be as powerful, if not more powerful than him. Good progression in Mega Man X. Mega Man X2 comes along. He's there again. You still can't play as him. You have a little bit more story involvement with him, but he's just there, again, being a badass character. Mega Man X3 rolls around. They say the big tagline that I remember was that, hey, you can play as Zero in this game. Chris, I would have fucking murdered somebody to play that game when I was that age. They told you could play as Zero. I stopped reading there. I didn't read past that where people said, whoa, fucking time out. You don't just play as Zero. It's not like you pick the character. There's a certain set of circumstances that let you play as him. Like, and forgive me, folks, I've only played through X3 like 2 or 3 times, but like you can only select him in certain levels, and if he dies, you can never play as him ever again. So he's more like a helper character that you can use like a few times. It's not the definition of play as Zero. You can sometimes play as Zero under certain conditions for certain amounts of time. But I didn't know that. I was this kid back in the Mega Man X3 time frame going, I couldn't find the game anywhere. I couldn't find anybody that had it. I couldn't rent it from anywhere, but I wanted to because I wanted to play as Zero. That was it. Mm-hmm. Aside the fact that it's a new Mega Man, Chris, with new powers and new bosses and new Mega Man period, that's already a fuel for me. But they said you could play as Zero. I was like, never got to play it till way, way later. Mega Man X4 comes along. Unfortunately, I played this way after the fact, so we're talking 2001, 2, 3, something like that. Holy shit! Kicked right in the fucking face. When you start this game out, motherfucker, who do you want to play as? Mega Man X or Zero? Take your pick. The whole game, the whole fucking campaign, all the way through. You fight all 8 bosses, fight all the mid bosses, the Sigma's levels, and the final bosses as X or as Zero. Fucking love this game. The graphics are fucking awesome. Sprite-based, side-scrolling graphics. The music, I love all the stage music. The bosses, I mean, it's Mega Man 8. I mean, it's Mega Man 8 boss style stuff. It's no different. Big whoop. Don't matter. I love it. Each Mega Man X and Zero both have their own story. Their story is laughable. I mean, everybody knows the meme of Zero going, "What am I fighting for?" Yeah, this bad boy. Who the fuck cares? I don't. The game is it's fun. It's fun. If you play as Mega Man X, just think of Mega Man X. Period. Because that's what this is. You kill bosses, you defeat bosses, you get their powers, you can use those powers on other bosses. Some may be weak to those, some may be not weak, whatever. You can have armor upgrades. An armor piece in particular will let you charge up all those other weapons and give them another form or another ability. So on and so forth. You play as Zero, you basically get new moves. You get like a double jump, you get a spin jump, you get a rising sword slash, all kind of stuff, and it gives him more power and more maneuverability. I will tell you now, Chris, and the audience as well, I have no problem admitting I have played through Mega Man X for, let's say, 30 times in my life, maybe more. I've played as Mega Man X maybe three. I'm giving it 3, and maybe only twice. Anytime I have, I've done everything, though. I've gotten all the armor and all the sub-tanks and all that shit. There is a code that I predominantly use. You can put a code in for Mega Man X, and if I remember right, the Mega Man X code gives him, like, ultimate armor type stuff at the beginning of the game. For Zero, his code is his armor turns black, and I predominantly play as the black armor, just because it looks cool. I realize this is probably just talking into an empty empty hallway, because it's Mega Man. People are going, dude, it's another fucking Mega Man. Who cares? I care. For whatever reason, the controls, the music, the action, the fact that you can play as Zero predominantly, and it's cool as hell to play as Zero. Everything about Mega Man X4, I have put that at my number 2 Mega Man game of all time. I can go play this right now and have a fucking blast. I love it. And yeah, it came out in 1997. Can't gush enough about it. I really can't. So audience, if you remember earlier, I was talking about Klonoa, how one of the mechanics is you can grab an enemy and then throw it somewhere. So we have a game for the 64 called Mischief Makers. Kind of the same premise. It's a side-scrolling action platformer. Very cute, very stylish design to it. Very Japanese-centric. The way it's hard to describe without. I mean, just go look at some screenshots of Mischief Makers and you'll understand. But the character has a lot of maneuverability. Apparently, I'm going through puberty today, Chris. That's the second time I've heard myself do that twice now in this episode. Welcome to the Puberty Cast. No, we're not going to make that the title. That's I don't know. I pushed the envelope, but I don't know. I can hear Adam right now. Do it. So
yeah, but we have standards.
Call out to Adam. Get your ass on this podcast and tell us how you have standards, or you don't. Do it. And again, I hate saying this all the time, but just to give the audience perspective, I have not played this game probably since like 2000, 2001, so I do apologize if my Mischief Makers is a little rusty, but I do remember one of the mechanics being that you grab an enemy and you could shake it, so then your character actually goes shake, 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 and I don't remember if that like shakes money out or currency or items, but I do remember that you could like jump off of them or throw them, and it gave you more maneuverability throughout the level. I can't remember if they gave you almost like a double jump, so to speak, but just a fun game. It's a side-scrolling platformer type game, so I do believe it holds up to this day. So please, if I'm butchering how this game is, which I know I am, go out and give it a try. Find it on the 64, however you can find it. It's still worth playing through to this day. Definitely a what the hell is this game about? And I played it and went, oh, this is actually very fun. It's up my alley. It's a platformer, so cool. And then another game, oh man, what a fucking what the hell premise that turned out to be way more fun than I thought it could be.
Oh yeah.
Monster Rancher. I played this one for the Sony PlayStation. Chris, you do the honors, man.
Oh man. This is for non-RPGs, this is probably the most time I put into a non-RPG in the PlayStation era. The premise of this game is that you are raising and, breeding and fighting monsters. Now, while that in itself is a, pretty fun mechanic, the real big thing to this game is where you get the monsters. So you don't just go out and find them. You actually go to a shrine to summon them. But you summon them using CDs from not this game. I mean, you can use the game, but you always get the same thing. You can take any other game, any music, CD, etc., and get a monster from it. There are, let's see, about 15 basic monster types. And then there are another 9 rare types. And then you can have primary and subtypes of them. So I went through, my parents had a lot of music discs. I actually went through and started, making a list, because spreadsheets weren't a thing back then, making a paper list of every disc in their collection and every monster it gave me, going, all right, this is the disc I want to use. All right.
Yep.
And it's it's such a gamble, and there's no like pattern to it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was the same way, man. I had a notebook. I'd grab a disc. I'd write the disc title down, and this is what I got. If I'm not mistaken, Chris, another part why this got even more crazy is that in order to get certain monster types, you could hope there was like a super like I'm just gonna shit something out here. If you wanted a black dragon. You say, well, fuck, I've gone through 200 discs and I can't get a black dragon. It's like, well, that black dragon is super rare to get from a disc. But you can take a red fairy and a orange ogre that you got from the fucking Incubus disc and the Metallica disc. You can merge those two, and that's how you can get a black dragon. If I'm not mistaken, wasn't that something?
I think there might be special combinations that will give you something like that, but generally speaking, your types can only be the types of what you put into it.
Okay.
There might be a couple specials. Yeah, there might be a certain combination that gives you like a dragon type or something, but
yeah.
I don't recall that offhand.
Yeah, but it definitely was we're talking a OCD like list thing where you're going. I was going to school and being like, hey man, can I just like borrow your discography of like everything you have? You had a little CD binder that you throw underneath your seat when you're on your way to school. Can you just let me borrow that for about a day and a half, 2 days? I just want and you're at home like just throwing all these discs in, and this is what I get. Reset the game. This is what I get. Oh man,
yep.
So much fun just trying out shit that you get from different discs. You know,
it's such a weird thing too.
Yeah.
That you wouldn't even really think about it. And then there were special discs too. You know, a lot of times, like if it was a Christmas music CD, it would recognize that and actually give you a Christmas themed monster.
Yep. little charming things put in this game. And yeah, and you get your monsters, you can level them up, you can fight them, you can feed them and raise them and have all sorts of effects and yada, yada, yada. Yeah, just... It's hard to understand today how that could be charming because it's CDs, you know, who listens to CDs, but it was just what do I get from this disc, you know, and trying to come up with meta reasoning like, wait a minute, so I had this Metallica disc and it gave me this monster. Surely if I put this other Metallica disc in, it'll give me a different of the same monster. Nope, gave me something else completely different. Well, why did... It's... Oh, man. Way too much fun with this game.
And there are, to this day, communities still built around making a list of like every CD in existence.
Wow, really?
Coming together as a community. Yeah, I stumbled across someone that's actually speedrunning Monster Rancher, and the way they were speedrunning was basically, you know, beat the S Cup, you know, tournament or whatever was the goal.
Right.
So there were always people experimenting with discs to try to find one that gave a better monster for this purpose.
Wow. Archiving monsters in Monster Rancher to this day. That's...
Yeah.
God, I love video games, man. I love this shit.
20 years later, still go at it.
and there are multiple Monster Ranchers, by the way. There were several out there, and they all...
I didn't even know that.
Yeah. They were all pretty much on the same premise, too. You know, you put X thing in, and it gives you a certain thing, and, you know, good luck. We'll see what you get. Love it. Simple premise, lots of fun. Way more fun than I thought I would have with that just on the outset. So, yeah, those are the three that I missed over. Sorry, games, especially you, Mega Man X4. I do formally apologize for that game. NFL Blitz. Whoa, Michael, you don't play sports games. You're right, I don't. But you can't not talk about NFL Blitz. To me, that's almost equivalent of not talking about like NBA Jam. This is a football game, very arcadey in nature. The first time I ever played an NFL Blitz wasn't in the arcade. It was on the 64. And the main takeaway from this is like after hits. That's what a lot of people know this game for, is that you could tackle, but then you could have more people jump and pile on top of them. And, you know, they're tackled, they're already down, but you can hit them again, basically. And it was pretty fun. I don't know shit about it because I don't know shit about football aside from the basic understanding. So just the idea of tackling somebody and having like 4 other people on my team just jumping on top of the dude that was down is pretty fun. Oddworld, Abe's Odyssey. While maybe not the first odd game, oh man, what a game to start this Oddworld franchise. Chris, tell me about this game.
So Oddworld is kind of unique. First, if you have a humanoid character, but he's definitely not a human, he is a Madokan, and they're almost kind of alienish in look. They're tall, gangly things, and the whole premise is essentially you're trying to leave this place while saving as many or as few of your brethren as you'd like. And you do this via a lot of crazy platforming and setting up of things, and you get some abilities as you go through, and it's so unique in how it functions, you know? You're not just, platforming. You're not just getting from point A to point B. You're doing so with other objectives in mind, looking for secret areas, looking for this and that. And there's that puzzle element to it to go, okay, well, I see there's a door here. Where's the lever for the door? I don't see the lever, Or not even being able to do something yourself, having to ask the other Madokans on the screen to do something for you. Having them flip a lever or hit a switch or something like that. It's a pretty brutal game too.
That's a big part of it right there, is the fact that Abe can talk to the NPCs he's trying to save, and you can talk to multiple ones at a time. So you're trying to get all of their attention and guide them through a series of traps, pits, falling things, all this stuff, and trying to get them to safety as quickly and as safely as you can. You can also control enemies as well. You get abilities later that let you talk to enemies and control them, and that's pretty humorous when you hear Abe go like "hello" and they go "what?" It had its charm. And I still think I think it's another game. Thankfully, since the main mechanic of the Oddworld games is puzzle, I think all these games hold up. I was just playing Oddworld Stranger's Wrath, which is a departure, granted, because it's almost like a over-the-shoulder / first-person shooter. But yeah, the main idea from these Oddworld games is puzzle solving. Pretty easy to start with. They get way more difficult. There's way more to manage, way more Madokans you got to save, way more obstacles to go through, and multiple rooms interacting. You got to clear one room and hurry and go through another one. Hurry to go. It's challenging but fun.
Yeah, and if you missed it, you are very fortunate, because in 2014 they released a digital remake of it, Oddworld New and Tasty. I played through that game. I think I 100% it.
Yeah,
I think I did.
Yep.
And I remember nothing being different. It just looked a little bit better, but from what I remember of the old PlayStation version, it's essentially identical, which is perfect.
Yeah. It's a facelift, a remaster, so to speak. So yeah, still good for trying out. Rival Schools, United by Fate, another fighting game. This had lots of characters to unlock, but I remember the gimmick of this being that all the characters you can pick are all school type characters. You got a volleyball player, a baseball player, a soccer player. You got the kid with his hands in his pockets all the time. You got a teacher, a gym coach, all sorts of characters to choose from. I'm pretty sure it was Japanese only voice. This is the version that I played. So that added some uniqueness to it that, I still hear the voices in my head, and especially the intro song to the game. But unfortunately, as all fighting games, it gets relegated into that. And once I did everything, I moved on. I just remember it being, unique and charming for what it was, with the characters being from school. RPG Maker came out this year, the first one. You ever thought about designing your own RPG, folks? Well, here is a game that gives you some basic fundamental stuff and lets you, to a fairly deep degree, create an RPG. I know what this game is, Chris, because I played Fighter Maker. If I remember right, they're kind of from the same company. If not, doesn't even matter. I know what the game is. It's a make-your-own game. I just never had this one. I never played it. I think the most knowledge I have from this game is that even today, people are still making RPGs from this game. And good RPGs, like lengthy, crazy detailed RPGs. So
this version we're looking at, I looked at it at the rental store so many times. I was like, man, that'd be so much fun to rent this and make a game. But it's like, but I'd be renting and there's no way I'd have enough time. And it was such a dilemma. I was like,
solid logic. Yeah.
I actually recently bought it for Steam. It's like version 19 or whatever, 26, I don't know.
Wow.
It wasn't what I wanted at the time for what I was trying to do when I was, testing out some game dev stuff, but still, solid application.
Yeah. I really wish I could tell the audience more about it from details. Like, I don't know how far it goes in to like writing and all that. I've seen some games that have been made from it, and it seems extensive, but not a crazy super amount of extension.
Yeah, the kind of, even to the modern day, the kind of limitation for me is that you're essentially limited to a sort of tile set structure graphically, which for old school games is perfect, right? That's kind of what you want for those games. But you could set dialogue for NPCs. You could set up triggers for points on the map, for things to happen. You set up your random battles and created all your enemies. I don't know how many presets and stuff like that there were, but you had that. You determined your level rates. You could set, whether it's a curve or a flat amount to level each time. It was essentially everything you needed to make an old school RPG in a basically like a Final Fantasy type style. And they had, portraits and stuff like that you could use for characters and stuff. So it had quite a lot to it. And playing it on, Steam now, you just upload your own assets too. So you're not limited to just what they ship with the application. You just upload what you want. You can make your own sprites and put them in the game, and it basically does everything on the back end for, putting that on your character. Nice. So it's pretty good if you ever wanted to just try out making something.
I mean, in essence, you can just see the title. I mean, you know what you're getting into. This is a game that lets you design, to varying degree, an RPG. That's pretty awesome. Just the idea alone is pretty awesome. Snowboard Kids, I got a lot of time out of this on the Nintendo 64. It's like, why the fuck would I care about a snowboard game? Just for clarification, I played Final Fantasy VII roughly a year after its release, so I didn't play Final Fantasy VII at this point of release, and I didn't know about the snowboard minigame in that game, so that wasn't where the love came from. I think this was the neighbors of my grandmother. They had the game, and I was like, yeah, sure, it's multiplayer, we'll try it out, and very fun. Got a lot of time out of this. You're in a downhill slope, you're snowboarding downhill, you have multiple characters, but the main draw is like, think Mario Kart. You have multiple weapons, so you're racing downhill, you're trying to avoid obstacles, but you're also trying to, shoot at or stop or slow down your opponents, trying to get first place. Surprise hit for me. Got a lot of time out of this. And 1080 snowboarding, but mainly this one because of the multiplayer aspect to it. Star Fox 64. Boy, Chris, if I had fucking time on this episode, I would be on a mountain This is what needs to be said about Star Fox 64. Okay, number one, great fucking game. If you want a Star Fox game, here you go. You want the idea of what Star Fox game is, right here. But what about Star Fox for the SNES? Yes, that's a good game. This is Star Fox. Right here. This is where it is. This is what Nintendo needs to go back to, and only this. This is it. You don't need a fucking gimmicky controls. You need this. So much about this game for me is what embodies Star Fox. Period. Most of the levels, you're flying around in space in your R-Wing behind the plane view. You get upgrades to your R-Wing, which you get your lasers become more powerful. You can fire 2 lasers at once. You get bombs you can throw out. The perspectives can shift from behind the airplane to what they call all-range mode, where it's full 3D. You're moving all around the map. There's a level where you're in a submarine. There's a level where you're on a land rolling tank. Just a decent enough story, a charming little Nintendo style story in here. Multiple characters with for what they were, charming and fits their character voice acting on a fucking 64 cart. It has multiplayer. The multiplayer is pretty good, but it's just with the amount of levels, it gets kind of stale over time. But the multiple branching paths in this game, this is Star Fox. This is what needs to come back. If they could take this game and they could add 5 more branches and like 30 more planets and 3 more submarine levels, 3 more tank levels, just keep this charm to it and keep this type of design, they would be golden. But no, they had to make a fucking adventure game. They had to make a game where some levels you're in an R-Wing, some levels you're on your foot with a fucking rocket launcher. Then they brought back what essentially was a Star Fox 64 remake / spiritual successor, but over half the levels you're controlling with your fucking Wii U gamepad, and it just felt weird and clunky. It's, when I want to play Star Fox today, even today, Chris, I just breathe, and I go back to the Star Fox 64, period. Tell me some of your experiences with this game.
So, I mentioned, earlier that most of my 64 experience was multiplayer games. And this game does have multiplayer mode, but I don't recall ever playing it. I recall taking turns playing the story mode. I don't know why we never played multiplayer. I don't remember much about it, but we would just play through the story and have fun flying around and making fun of some of the dialogue and
yep,
going through and just hanging out.
Yep. Yeah, I played, when you weren't around, I played this with, our grandmother's neighbor quite often in multiplayer. And even when we played it, we did the same thing. We had way too much fun with just the single player. And the single player in this game is where it's at. I can't stress it enough. If you want, in my opinion, if you're, okay, I've heard Star Fox, tell me about it. Show me what I'm in for. This is what I would give you. You can go back and play the Star Fox on the SNES. It is fun. It is entertaining. Yes. But this is what really made it for me. Street Fighter 3. Just want to mention this because Street Fighter finally got its 3rd installment after Street Fighter 2 and Street Fighter 2 Champions. Yeah. Street Fighter 2 Championship Edition and Street Fighter 2 Turbo Edition and Super Street Fighter 2 and Super Street Fighter 2 Ultimate Edition and finally Street Fighter 3. They were starting to get up the chain with the numbers. This is not my pick for Street Fighter 3. Obviously, Third Strike is mine. But same category, fighting games, etc., yada, yada, yada. Tales of Destiny. I played this game back in the day, Chris. I want to say I borrowed your copy.
Yep.
And I made it so far in this game, and I got stuck in a castle. I was stuck in this castle in real life for, felt like over 2 weeks. Now, just so we understand, audience, this is not like I had an hour or two and I said, fuck it, I give up. This is me coming home. I'm gonna really lay some details out here, okay? This is me coming home from school at about 4:30 in the afternoon, starting this game immediately, because fuck homework, right? Playing this game, if you take out, bath and dinner and brush teeth and shit like that and piss breaks, all the way till 10, 11, 12 o'clock at night, and then do it again the next day. And then playing for, from 6 o'clock in the morning till 11 o'clock at night on the weekend. I was stuck in this one fucking palace or castle or whatever for over 2 weeks. And finally just said, I fucking give. I didn't have a guide. I didn't ask anybody. I didn't have any help. A Game Shark wouldn't have done any good, even though I had one. It wouldn't do any good. If you can't solve a puzzle unless you have a code that skips a fucking castle, you're done. Mm-hmm. So, I put this game down a long time ago because of that. I did play it recently, 2 or 3 years ago, and made it pretty far in, but I think I got sidetracked. Great game.
Oh yeah,
great RPG. It has standard RPG fares that overworld view, top-down overworld view. The battles are pretty unique. The battles go side-scrolling, and you're on a 2D plane with your characters shuffling left and right. They can control automatically on their own or manually with some pretty good AI, and you just gotta kill the enemies on screen, and you'll gain experience and gold and level up like a standard RPG. But it's not just attack magic item. It's move your character around, do moves, do things.
Yeah, this was my first Tales of game. I didn't even realize it was a series for the longest time, and it's one whenever I hear about it, I at least throw it on my wish list, and I have a backlog of these to play through.
Oh yeah.
I've started a couple others, but haven't finished any besides Tales of Destiny.
Yeah.
This was another one of my go-to RPGs back then. I would sit there and play it. I have a very specific memory of this game. I don't know if I talked about this. I might have talked about it on the podcast before, but I played this game through a hurricane.
Oh, wow.
I think we even lost power at one point, so I was playing on generator power. But I sat there playing through it while there was a raging storm around me. That was what I did, because there was no school, there was nothing going on, so I just sat there and played this game. Good. I don't even remember a whole lot about the story, but I remember enjoying it. It was really that side-to-side combat that really drew me to the game and kind of stuck me to it, because it's so different. It's so unique.
Yeah, hey, you know what? Video games can be can be calming in a storm, so I could totally understand that. And yeah, especially with the side-scrolling combat. I mean, it's standard fare for most everything else, folks, but that combat is really unique. And the puzzle, the reason why people are saying, wait a minute, stop, you were stuck in a castle, what, you couldn't find the fucking door? Well, there is a hefty amount of puzzles in Tales of Destiny. Think of Wild Arms if you want a comparison. Lots of level design that revolves around puzzle solving, and plenty of puzzles in that game. I do wish to go back into Tales of Destiny and start all the way from scratch and go through that game in its entirety. That was my plan a few years ago. I just got severely sidetracked. It's unfortunate because I was enjoying that game. It is fun. It is enjoyable even to this day.
Yeah.
Tekken 3, I feel like I should talk about Tekken 3 more than any fighting game on this list, because as far as the PlayStation era is concerned, this was my top pick for a PlayStation game. This fighting game, sorry. This is my quintessential Tekken game from back in the day. I'm sorry, let me scratch that. Tekken Tag Tournament's kind of my pick, but I like Tekken 6, 7 as well. Whatever. This was my first Tekken. That's what I meant to say. I had a friend in high school that very much into fighting games. He played a lot of Tekken, played a lot of King of Fighters. Really wasn't too keen on Street Fighter stuff, but love Tekken and love King of Fighters. And he had Tekken 3, and he was like, "You've never played a Tekken game? Well, here, take this one home with you." And he let me borrow Tekken 3. And 3D combat, the music, the graphics, the combo systems, even the silly freaking mini games like the volleyball and the side-scrolling action beat-em-up style game. I had way more fun with Tekken 3 than I've had on pretty much any fighting game for the PlayStation period. As all fighting games, it rolls into the same category. I didn't have anybody to play against, so once I unlocked everything, I kind of moved on. Once I got some combos down, I moved on. I will say that the ending cinematics for Tekken 3 were pretty cool. Point of fact, Brian Fury had one of the coolest fucking ending sequences I'd ever seen for a fighting character. He's running down an alleyway and getting shot at by some soldiers or something, and a fucking tank shoots at him, and he jumps on the tank and rips the top of the tank off and throws it at the fucking guys. And his laugh, that I copied that laugh and still do that laugh to this day. I always picked Brian as the character to play as, and I know like 2 combos of his, but I suck at fighting games, period. So I never got good, but I always liked his character. I also, point of fact, I didn't realize till almost Tekken 4 or 5, not even directly related to that game, but just from lore, I didn't find out until then that apparently he's a zombie. So crazy stuff. Tomba, Chris, I played Tomba. I played a few levels of it, but you are far better equipped to talk about this game than me, so please.
Oh man, what a fun random ass game. So Tomba is a side-scrolling platform puzzle game.
Sure.
I have never beat it. In fact, it's one of those that's on my list. I have to go back and beat it because it's so frustrating that I never managed to do it. And it wasn't for lack of trying. I first had this game as a demo disc, so I literally could not progress past one of the earlier points. But then I got the full game, and I was like, okay, now I can sit down and do it. And it's like, oh god, I have no idea what I'm supposed to be doing. You go around collecting items or doing objectives and this and that, and some of it's pretty straightforward, especially early on. But then later on, it's like, or there'll be like a place you can't get to early on in the game, and you're always thinking like, okay, can I go back there? And you go back and check. Nope. How about now? No. When will I ever be able to get past this point? When can I open this door? And the one I'm thinking about in particular, I don't know that I ever did. I don't know how many hours I put in this game, but it was one of those that I restarted a lot. I don't even know if you could save this game. So that may have been one of those things. It was PlayStation though, so you should have been able to. I don't know. I don't remember. I don't know. It puzzles me to this day, this damned game. Oh man, but it was so fun. And it was again one of those just fun, kind of cute games. You know, your main character, you're a feral child.
Yeah. With
pink hair that jumps on pigs who are, you know, your main opponent throughout the game.
Yeah.
At least as far as I saw.
Yeah. That's kind of how I felt with Mischief Makers, you know. You had these cute little enemies that run around panicking around the screen, and she walks up and grabs them and shake, and you're like, okay, what am I doing? Why am I doing this? But the gameplay is where it's at, you know?
Yeah, absolutely.
Only a couple more left. Turok Dinosaur Hunter. I have played this game recently. Not the original N64 version. There is a version on Steam. It will take you a bit to get the controls set up properly and all that, but I enjoyed it. I loved this game back in the day. It's a first-person shooter where you have you got a bow and arrow, but you have guns, pistols, rifles, all kinds of weapons. And it's a first-person shooter where you shoot people and dinosaurs and monsters and aliens and shit later in the game. I will admit, honesty, I don't know if I've ever beat this game entirely. I've gotten pretty far in. I think there comes a point in the game where it's almost like a hub scenario where you kind of you go through a level 2 or 3 levels, and then you get to this hub area, and then you can branch off and select where you want to go. That's about as far as I've got to in the PC re-release, the PC version I'm playing now. But even to this day, as old as it is, just the music, the setting, the combat, I mean, it's basic first-person shooter stuff, folks. There's nothing that's wildly out there. But it has its own unique charm for me, and I enjoy it even to this day. I see that you have played this as well. Yeah,
I actually had to change it because I completely missed this game when I was reading through the list. Did this have a multiplayer mode?
I believe it did, but I don't know if we ever played it.
I don't know if I ever played it either, but I remember playing the game, at least a little bit.
Yeah. Another cool thing about this, which is something that most of these games have done at this point, Doom 64 is a good example as well. I don't know if Doom 64 did it or just had it, but it had a way where you could take the map, and it was like a wire frame of the map, and you just have it overlaid while you play. It's like over your screen instead of just down in a corner. So I thought that was pretty cool. Yeah, I never beat it. I should. I think it has like cheat codes and stuff too for big heads and stuff like that. I remember having more fun with it than I could admit having beat it. But yeah, good game. I enjoy it. It's not the greatest first-person shooter ever, but for whatever it is, it's appealing to me. Last on this list, WCW versus MWO World Tour. Okay. There is I wish I could channel Wooly and Pat right now, because there is a type of there's an engine that this game is based off of. I almost had it, Chris, when I was saying that, and it came in my mind and just flipped away, and I have forgotten it. It's like the Hori engine or something. I don't know.
I'll take a look.
The wrestling engine that this game was designed around. There are several games that are like this. I mean, it's almost cut and paste. You can put the character models are almost cut. They're just almost similar, and you just make the skins different. So they took the skins from WCW and NWO characters and plastered them on here. There are multiple characters you can pick from, and almost all of them have unique move sets, and you just get in the fucking ring and wrestle. You have meters for stamina, you have parts of the body that can get weaker, and you have all the standard gameplay mechanics that are there for wrestling games. Most notably, the one me and my friends played the most was like the battle royale kind of one. That's not what it's called. What's it called, Chris?
Royal Rumble?
Royal Rumble style version, yeah, where you just keep having players come in and come in and come in. I played this game so much as a kid with all sorts of friends. I remember going to somebody's house one time. Their parents had bought a WrestleMania, and before WrestleMania, we played this game for hours on end, watched the WrestleMania, and we're talking typical teenage kid shit here, Chris. There was pizza, soda, fucking video games, candy, all that. We're playing this wrestling. We're playing this game. We watched the WrestleMania thing, have fun 2 or 3 hours with that, stop playing that, it's nighttime, we go back to playing this game, more pizza, more candy, more soft drinks, like another childhood game, and all around a very simple but very, very entertaining wrestling engine. So lots of memories with this game, lots of fun multiplayer memories too. It wasn't the only 64 game that had this either. There was like a WrestleMania one, all sorts of, and wrestling games in general. I mean, there's customization level out the ass today. You can make wrestlers any way you want to. It's definitely an unsung franchise in the video game world. I have partaken in it. I played a Xbox game that let me make characters, and I did actually on my first deployment in the desert. Made lots of wrestling characters. But it's something for people to check out. It's definitely fun. And the more players that you get involved in this, 4 or more, oh yeah, definitely fun.
Mm-hmm.
Aki engine. Just came to mind. The Aki engine. I'm not looking.
Oh, that's the name of the company. Okay, I didn't realize they named it after themselves.
Yeah. So, yeah, there we have it, folks. Long list. Let me look at the time. Holy crap, we're right over 3 hours. That's yeah. I knew it. I knew it was going to be a long one today. Could you imagine if Adam was here? Holy crap, we're talking 4.5 hours, man.
Might have been the two-parter.
Yeah, it might have been. But there you have it, folks. That is the End of Time cast review of 1997. What additions to any game that we brought up or any of the little few news articles that we brought up that you would like to add? Did we not talk enough about Star Fox 64? Was there more to the original Fallout? You know, did Chris do, you know, an unjust job? There's just way more that needs to be brought up. You know, what about Marvel Superheroes versus Street Fighter? That was a big thing for you, right? Because that was when Marvel was really getting into the game. What changed? What did they add? What really happened in that merger? Like, what made that merger happen? Are there any games that were in 1997 that weren't talked about? Trust me, there were hundreds that you want to talk about that were important to you. Especially if they're like childhood memories. Like, hey, man, here's this game that I played. Nobody else in my neighborhood played it. None of my friends cared about it. But this is like a fond memory game for me. And this is why. I love to hear stuff like that. I love to hear your memories of staying up all night playing GoldenEye. Or your first shocking moment when you got to play Mega Man X4 and got to play as Zero. How many cars did you make in Gran Turismo? You know, stuff like this is awesome. It's awesome to hear. It's awesome to have good conversation like this. And there are many ways that you can get this information to us. You can go to Facebook and you can search for the End of Time cast. It may be how you found this episode right here. You can message us through there. You can post on a wall. However you choose to do it. It's fine. We'd love to hear from you. We have an email, so you can email us at endoftimecast@gmail.com. That's endoftimecast@gmail.com. No funny numbers in there or anything. Just spell it as you heard it. We have a Twitter page. You can tweet us, retweet us, post on the wall there. However you choose to get a hold of us. There are also a myriad other subscription, not non-paid subscription services that carry the End of Time cast. You can leave comments there. There are many ways to get your feedback to us, and we would love to hear from you. We'd love to read your email here on the show, and we'd also like to talk about it. I love hearing memories. I love talking video games, and I love to hear more people that have great things to talk about, great memories to talk about in the video game world. So yeah, a long one, but hey, that's fine. That's what we're all about. That's going to do it for tonight's episode of the End of Time cast. And until next time, I'm Michael.
And I'm Chris.
Good night, everybody.